And good morning. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. I'm Glenn. He's Griffin. And if it's Friday, that means Press Box's Chief Grand Poobah, Stan the Fan Charles, is back in the studio with us. Good to see you, Stan.
Good to see you guys. Good to see you guys. So if next Friday, I'll be here too, right?
No, but the following Friday.
Can you explain me?
Yeah, so here's a quick programming update. Of course, next Thursday is the 4th, and as I've talked about before, we as a country have got, I know there's a lot of things we've got to get figured out as a country right now. I'm aware of that. For example, Tim Weah getting a red card in the first half of a game. We got to get that figured out. But one thing we got to figure out is how we don't have holidays in the middle of a week. It doesn't help anybody. It benefits no one. We can do the 4th of July on the 5th of July. It'd be just fine. No,
not
it'd
the
be
birth
fun.
of the country.
Yeah, we call it Independence Day. We're done. All's good. Believe it or not, Martin Luther King wasn't born on a Monday every year. But yet we figured out that we can celebrate it on a Monday. It's weird. Here's the point. The point is, next Thursday we'll be off for the 4th. So a lot of us have scheduled sort of our vacations around that. So we're going to be off next Thursday and Friday, and then the following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's complicated. Essentially, we're going to be off for 5 shows. It's being off for a week. It's just that the week is going to stagger over the course of 2 weeks. Confusing? I get it. But no shows.
It'll make sense when it happens.
The 4th, the 5th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th. Then Stan is going to, and Griffin are going to come back and hang out with you on the 11th and 12th.
Are we going away together?
I mean,
you said we're going to come back. I mean, are we going?
Well, Griffin's coming back.
Oh, okay.
You, I guess, aren't. I don't know.
I'm not
you may
going anywhere.
Right, you're staying right here. Yeah. And then the following week, everything returns to normal.
Normal. Yeah.
Everything will be right back to normal, and we'll be in the throes of, I don't know, Olympics coverage or something. I don't know what we'll be doing by that point of the year.
Well,
I don't think we're
big
quite
home run derby time, so we'll have a big home run
derby. Oh, yeah, that
derby
will be
breakdown.
All-Star Week when I come back. I didn't time that out right. Normally, I like to try to make the trip during All-Star Week because
Gunner's gonna win the home run derby.
Would be nice.
And then tank the rest of the
Don't put that into the ether. We don't need that at all. Thank you for nothing.
Never happened.
Never. Not the Gunner.
So that's the point. The point is, next Thursday and Friday, no show. The following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, no show. So 1 week of no shows. Then Stan and Griffin on the 11th and 12th. And then the following week, starting July 15th, everything will be back to normal. Cool, capiche, and thank you to Stan and to Griffin for working things out so that we wouldn't go 7 days without any
So I know you both are weather freaks.
Yes, you know me.
So today the weather broke, but is it going to be back like
to be in hell?
Tomorrow
I think it's supposed
Sunday?
to be. I don't know if tomorrow is or not. We gotta.
I can actually get an.
Well, right now it's not too bad. So.
What's
Yeah,
that?
that's the point. That was what we said.
Yeah,
the weather
I mean.
broke. That
Yeah.
was. Oh, sorry. My
Yeah.
bad. Griffin's doing his bit. My fault. Thank you.
So I'd imagine.
Yeah, tell me what the weather's going to be for the rest of the weekend, please, Griffin.
It's beautiful right now.
That's a great point, right? But for the rest of
I
the
expect
weekend,
a beautiful weekend.
that's always. You joke, but that is, of course, as everyone knows.
Saturday's a 4:05 game.
No.
All night games.
No, all night games this weekend.
this week is all night games
because of the national TV broadcasts.
I knew that on Sunday, but what's Saturday? They're going to be on Fox. Okay.
Yeah. So
at 7:05.
I think it's 7:15 tomorrow.
7:15. Oh, great.
Yeah, so 7:15 tomorrow, 7:05 on Sunday for the Orioles, and yes, yeah, I mean a little national TV. Although I don't think tomorrow is actually like the full national TV game. I think it's
like a part,
Yeah, there's a half and half sort of thing going on. It's supposed to get up to 89 tomorrow, back up to 94 on Sunday.
But breezy tomorrow, so
there is a 39% chance of rain on Sunday as well.
Okay,
so, keep that in mind. But
looks like it's gonna storms Saturday night. Overnight.
Okay, well, that doesn't seem like it's going to impact baseball games, so we like that. I think
like
I'm going both tomorrow night and Sunday night, actually. I think I'm going to make a weekend out of it and go down to a couple of baseball
Glenn.
games. Yeah, PTG, they call me. That's exactly right. All right, coming up on the program today, Buster Olney, of course, from ESPN, speaking of Sunday Night Baseball. He'll be part of the broadcast, and he will check in with us. Also, we will talk a little bit more about the Rangers. Our friend Mark McLemore, former Oriole second baseman, Rangers TV analyst, will join us a little bit later on. And the legendary Muggsy Bogues is back in town this week, and an event they do every year to celebrate his late sister, who was a huge part of the Parks Department here in Baltimore Muggsy Bogues returns to the program today, and we'll talk some hoops, just catch up with Muggsy. Always like doing that. So all that on the program on a Friday. Today's show is brought to you by County Sports Zone. Yes, there is no high school sports going on right now, but before you know it, it'll be into high school football season, and County Sports Zone is keeping you abreast of everything going on. They'll, of course, have coverage today of Malik Washington's announcement as the Archbishop Spalding quarterback. A lot of people around here say he's going to the University of Maryland. We'll find out a little bit later on today, and you can find out more about it at County Sports Zone, countysports.zone, proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com.
What do we know about this guy the Wizards drafted?
Bub Carrington? Bub Carrington's a hell of a player, man. He's a hell of a player. I don't know about they need a lot of things to go right. That's as I said yesterday, like I'll bet that it doesn't go well just because I've paid attention to the Wizards in my life.
Yeah, so. This is a new regime. Maybe we got to give them.
I mean, it's not like Mike Elias coming from Houston, where like he completed a rebuild.
It was a rough year to have the number 2 pick, although a lot of people believe that Sarr really was the best player in this draft.
Yeah, I like the sound of him.
You know, you put him and Koulibaly together, and I like Bub Carrington. I think he's a nice player, man. I think it's a great thing for his family and all of the above, but I don't know. I don't know. I think it's going to be we'll see. I'm going to try to be pleasant about it. And
maybe they can trade for Wemby.
I don't really know what the Spurs are doing, so
well, they got a point guard now.
I understand, but I just don't know that I fully understand. They traded out of one of their picks.
They're playing for 2026, I think.
I guess that's what they're doing down there. All right, so the Orioles are back in first place for as rough as that 5-game losing streak was, and yes, it was rough. The good news is that the Yankees are a disaster. Did you see the thing from the first inning last night?
Yeah,
no.
Did you see the Justin? Okay. Can you pull up?
Wait. The Ben Rice or?
Yeah, the Ben Rice. Justin Turner was the batter. So Justin Turner hits a little squibber down the first base line. There's runners on second and third. They're already down 1-0. Justin Turner hits a little squibber down the first base line.
To Ben Rice.
Who's at first base. Ben Rice just stands there. Just does nothing.
Just waits for the ball.
The ball hits off the base, bounces into foul territory. Justin Turner gets a base hit out of it because Ben Rice just chooses to stand and watch the ball and hope that it goes foul. Has no thought of, well, it's going to hit the bag. Maybe I should just pick it up and take the out at first base.
Right, exactly.
Just watches the ball and chooses to do absolutely nothing about it whatsoever.
Yeah, I feel bad for the Yankees.
Oh yeah, you just feel
really bad about Garrett Cole. You know, the other night giving up 4 home runs with velocity fall off.
Yeah, really, really terrible times for them. Here you go. I'll show it to you. I don't know if Griffin's showing it on the air or not. There's a little squibber from Justin Turner, and Ben Rice just sort of says,
"Make a pitch in a big spot." Get through this first.
Back in the
Cute slowly
Ben
down
Rice
the first baseline.
How many outs were there?
Yeah, that's just the way it's going.
There was nobody out.
So
it's not as bad
as
up a run.
Right.
But run scores. It's 2-0.
They ended up scoring 5 runs
Blue
that inning
Jays.
instead. So just a real shame.
Well, we know that Ben Rice is not a first baseman by trade, but can
good news for the
make a
Orioles
pitch
is
in a
that
big
it's rough,
spot?
and it was a
Get
rough
through this first.
rough 5-game stretch. They ultimately end up, since the Yankees
They've gained ground.
They have gained ground. They've gone from
What
being
are we,
half
a game out?
No, they are tied. They
They're
are
tied.
and percentage points ahead because the Orioles are ahead in the loss column.
So if the season ended right now,
the Orioles would be the AL East champions. Hey. Look at that. Yeah, right? Hang the banner, baby. Hang that banner. By the way, look, it was very difficult last night. I get that everybody's going to say, hey, it should be Corbin Burns. It should be Corbin Burns. Understand. He also gave up 9 hits last night. And that was just enough for me to consider somebody else as man of the match. And because Heston Kjerstad was really the table setter last night, he was the spark
3 ribbies
for the Orioles and another walk on top of everything else.
And made a couple decent plays in the field.
If he's and look, if they're going to be trying to find him regular playing time, it's going to have to come in left field, right? He's gonna. There is not obvious every now and then you can get him a day somewhere else.
Right.
The argument that we talked about the other day, because you need to try to keep getting at bats for Colton Cowser, who also hit a home run last night. So you're going to have to give like Mountcastle a day off against a righty every now and then just to get him a day off. I don't.
Suddenly, Cedric Mullins is back.
Cedric Mullins has had a heck of a 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's been a very good 2 weeks for Cedric Mullins. But, yeah, Heston Kjerstad, man of the match, so we'll put him up on the board. Stan, the only thing about the last two nights is those are your two pitchers, right? Like the guys that got the job done and the two guys that you have faith in. And now it's sort of up to everybody else to show that you can have an amount of faith in anyone else. I think we all know.
Getting ready to do shtick or something?
No, I'm just going to turn around and hang this up as you talk about what I'm about to. I'm going to set you up, and then I'm going to turn around and post somebody on the board.
I got to go to the bathroom.
Not time for that, Stan. No, we've got a strict
I'll just make my pee-pee in my pants.
Strict no bathroom policy here at GCR.
Yeah.
Everyone knows that. We do the old Monday Night Football bit. We keep a milk gallons underneath the table.
Right.
And if somebody's got to go, you go right here on the broadcast. So
you could keep the mic on the stand, and I could slip back there. And
you could, but it's all right.
But
Everything's going to be okay. I'm prepared. Everything's going to be okay. My point is, I think at this point it's quite obvious to everyone you're going to have to trade for starting pitching. Like there is no. You want to try to win a World Series this year, you're going to need at least one more reliable, not ace, but someone, as has been described a few times, if you are in a wild card series, someone that you would trust to throw a decisive Game 3 of that wild card series. And right now, not to say you couldn't get there with Cole Irvin or Dean Kramer, you just don't feel a whole lot of confidence in the idea that that game would be started at the moment by one of Cole Irvin or Dean Kramer.
Yeah.
So I guess where are you with what they should be pursuing and what price you're willing to pay in order to acquire starting pitching? Like, what's the line?
Those are tricky questions right now because, first of all, it would be one thing if Colton Cowser, Heston Kjerstad, Connor Norby, Kyle Stowers, am I leaving anybody else out? Of the list of young players that really haven't added to their value a great deal. I think we could argue that Kjerstad.
I think Kjerstad's the closest to the.
That his value, because he played so well at AAA, his value is still pretty high. But
and so clearly you're talking about the secondary group because the first group is obviously the Mayo, Holiday, Basayo group. Like those are the three guys that everybody.
You'd like to get through this without that, without giving up one of those guys, but. The Stowers and Norby and Cowser have a great deal of trade value right now, So when you ask the question, and would an Austin Hayes be like if you're trying to trade with a team that's 19 games out of first place right now and it's trying to rebuild, is Austin Hayes somewhat an attractive part of a trade? Because it really seems like as much as we like Austin Hayes. He's a stand-up guy. It really seems like he's getting squeezed out of the picture.
While to an extent I agree with you, unfortunately, because you still have so few right-handed bats, he still has value to this team because you don't have a full group of right-handed bats.
Right.
They're clearly at this point, whenever they face a lefty, purposely putting McCann in on that day to say, hey, this is going to be the day that McCann's going to catch, because we're going to have to catch him at some point this week.
Right.
And we have so few right-handed bats that this is just the way it's going to go. McCann's going to play against lefties moving forward.
Yeah.
And by the way, it worked out somewhat the other night. I mean, there was a little give and take, obviously, with McCann the other night. But for the season, he has not been very productive at all. It's just they have so few right-handed bats that they kind of seem committed to McCann playing every time they face a lefty. So I get what you're saying about Austin Hayes, and Griffin and I have talked about it throughout the course of the season. You would be very hard-pressed to find who the team is that's out of it this year but is confident they'd be in it next year and would think that Austin Hayes could be beneficial to them for the 1 year that he would be there before he's a free agent as well.
Right.
It's almost impossible to present who that team would be.
Yeah.
For a little while, we thought it might be the Mets. Now, all of a sudden, the Mets are in it this year, right? So, they're not going to be Severino's not going to be on the table anymore. That's not going to be the option there. So I agree to an extent. Like, you are trying to do this without it being Mayo, certainly without it being Mayo, obviously without it being Holiday, and preferably without it being Basayo.
Right.
The opinions of some are, hey, if you've got to do one of that in order to get a deal done, Basayo would be the guy. Like, if it costs you that in order to acquire pitching, you live with the fact that you had to trade Basayo.
That's got to be a pretty top flight arm.
And to the point, how many of those guys are really going to be available at the deadline this year?
Yep.
So Garrett Crochet would qualify as a top flight arm, but not one that would likely have many innings in him for you to be counting on him to try to help you win a World Series as a starter this season.
Yeah.
So where are you at then?
Well, you mentioned an interesting name last week. Eric Fetty is certainly an interesting name. I'd have to do a little bit deeper dive at Patrick Corbin, who's on the last year of an excessive contract.
He's been bad.
He's been bad, but he's playing for and no disrespect to the Nats because they've been kind of a plucky team this year. I don't watch them enough to know how they play defense. I don't think they're a really terrific defensive team.
I don't think they're good. Boy, it's still. If you just look at
But a left-handed pitcher pitching in Camden Yards is also attractive to me.
That's why I can't shake Tyler Anderson whenever we have these conversations.
No question, he'd be interesting. Again, we have to view what the cost versus, was the relationship that horrible with Jack Flaherty? In other words, was there something about him they didn't like, or they just weren't willing to pay his salary when they were under certain constraints? What did he get this year? Did he get $12 million from the Tigers?
I thought it was 11 or 12.
Yeah. At some time I toss around 7.5.
It was
$14 million.
14.
Yeah. So again, you got to keep in mind: is this a guy you're acquiring with the hopes of re-signing him? I'm not on board necessarily with a long-term commitment to Jack Flaherty, but he got hit last night. The Angels beat him 5-0. But he still struck out 7, walked 1, gave up a couple home runs. I think 2 or 3 home runs.
And in fairness, Eric Fetty also got hit the last time he pitched. But I mean,
you can't micromanage.
You know what? I take the Eric Fetty gave up. It was the Dodgers. He gave up 4 runs, but it was only on 5. It was 5 hits and 1 walk over 6 innings.
Right.
Like you're gonna live with that.
Yeah.
Like that'll happen every now and then. It just so happens to be that they score runs, and it's the Dodgers.
Maybe the Yankees will panic and want to trade Luis Gil for some prospects.
But then you got the innings problem all over again.
Kidding about
Maybe you got the innings problem at that point all over again. Where are you with Luzardo?
I'm starting to be concerned with Luzardo as much as I love the guy's stuff. He's on the IL again for a substantial time right now. So I'm not in the Luzardo camp anymore right now.
I think that I am probably in the same boat as you are at this point, that I'm between his struggles and the injury. That
I'll tell you who's still interesting to me, and I'd have to look up his numbers. Maybe you could do it, Griff, while I talk. Reed Detmers at Salt Lake City. This is a guy early in the season. I said, I got a new guy for us. And then 6 starts later, he was optioned to the minor leagues. So if he's in the minor leagues with the Angels, you would think that the asking price can't be tremendously high for him. That's a team that's got a lot of needs. I mean,
I would. It's funny you bring that up because I've wondered how far away you are. And again, this weekend might be the determining factor because you're throwing the 3 guys that you don't count on right now this weekend. I've wondered how far the Orioles were from. If you acquire Detmers, he's not your answer, right? But
he's a guy to measure for a month and see if you need another guy.
And my thought was we can't be that far away from Julio Teheran making a start in Baltimore. That we are not. They
Is
can't.
He still down in Norfolk?
Yep.
Okay.
And he's made back-to-back very good starts for Norfolk, and so
he would probably be their first option.
I don't know And the problem being, which one of these guys is the first guy that you're saying, okay, we're hitting the pause, and it comes at a time where Dean Kramer is likely back in the rotation the next time through.
Right.
So are they doing that to make it a 6-man rotation? They have 2 off days in the next 2 Mondays. They don't need to do a 6-man rotation before the All-Star break.
Right.
Or are they looking at this weekend and saying everybody right now is auditioning for their spot in the rotation that Dean Kramer could end up taking away from them next week?
Right.
And I think that's the first. My gut tells me that's the first thing that's happening. And it's like Suarez. I think Cole Irvin's got a little bit more leniency because he put together more good starts than the other ones did.
And this is not out of the realm of regular for him. Even when he was good, he would have 2 or 3 bad starts in a row, and you'd sort of. I had him on my fantasy team, and you go, should I start him? And then all of a sudden, it's 6 shutout innings. You know, he's going to put together another nice stretch of baseball.
I think that Suarez is the guy.
He's the wild card to me. I'm not ready to throw away the baby with the bathwater just yet on Suarez. You know, he pitched too many good games in a row. You know, he had a bump against the Yankees.
Yeah, and it wasn't good, obviously, the last time out either.
Glenn doesn't like that he can't go 6 innings.
Part of me is I think that Suarez is your long man. Like, that's what he can do for a team. He's not going to be...
That's a better role for him. There's no question about it.
I think he is the long man spot starter, right? That, to me, is what Albert Suarez is as a major league pitcher is... It's not that you're never going to start. It's that they don't really have a long man. And
no, they don't.
Like last Friday, they could have really used a long man when Grayson Rodriguez was getting his ass kicked early in that game. And that, again, is going to happen every now and then.
Yep.
You could really use a long man to, and I get they had Corbin Burns going the next day, so they probably felt confident and, even if we have to use a ton of pitchers tonight, it won't be the end of the world because we think we're going to get innings out of Corbin Burns. And they did. They got 7 innings despite the fact that he wasn't very good on Saturday. He was still able to give them 7, and he did that was yeoman's work. But I think they could use someone who's specifically their long man, and I think that Suarez makes a lot of sense. And if this weekend it's one more rough start for Albert Suarez, to me, that's the first move that I make. With Dean Kramer.
And who does he take the place of? Dylan Tate goes down?
Or Nick Vespi goes back. I mean, Vespi's been good recently. Yeah,
good.
I don't know that
Were you able to find out Detmer's numbers?
Yeah, he's made 4 starts at Salt Lake AAA. So 24 innings, he's allowed 16 earned runs. It's a 6 ERA. But they've left him out there each other. He went 5, 6, 7, 6 innings in each start, but he's let up a lot of runs in each one. He went 7 innings last week, allowing 2 runs. That was his best start, but the other ones have not been good.
That's not good.
No, that's not. It's definitely not your answer. Again, if they just want a song and you want to put him in the mix, and
he does strike guys out though.
How many strikeouts did he have in 24 innings?
He had 30.
30.
Yeah.
That part,
bring him in as your closer.
Maybe he can be your 7th inning guy. I don't know. But yeah, I feel like this weekend it goes a long way to determining what's next for this group of guys that you're just not feeling great about at the moment. And look, I'm not ready to kick Cade Povich out either.
No, I'm not by any means. And I think he's a keeper right now. I think he's showing enough to warrant keep starting.
That's why I think Suarez is the guy who's most under the microscope at the moment. Yeah. So it's Suarez tonight against Scherzer.
I wonder what Texas would do. Let's say we sweep Texas.
And so now you're putting them 9 games under 500.
Yeah, and all of a sudden we talk to them about Nathan Eovaldi.
Oh, I was thinking Lorenzen. What's
Scherzer? F it.
Just go crazy. What about all of them? Yeah. Like, what about?
No, Eovaldi's got probably 1 more year on a contract, I'm assuming. And you're going to get an injury with Eovaldi at some point during his tenure with you, but he's a top-class pitcher,
He's been good. There's no doubt about that. I'm trying to pull up what his contract is real quick.
Didn't he sign like a 3-year,
$4 million? Yeah, $468.
$468.
Next year is vesting.
A vesting option, and I don't know enough to know if that's already. Yeah. Has he already done enough for that to be vested or not? I don't know the answer on that question. If it has, to me, that's a little bit more desirable. It's part of what we talked about with Fetty.
He's more desirable than Fetty or
Well,
Corbin.
Fetty's got one more year, too.
Right. No, but Fetty's like, I think, 7. Was he 7
million
a year for 2 years?
Yeah, that sounds right.
14 million,
that
something
sounds right.
like that.
I am in favor of not renting. I am in favor of make a move for somebody that's going to be around for at least one more year, because you need pitchers again next season when you don't have John Means, and again, unless something changes, Corbin Burns is gone, and obviously Kyle Bradish won't be back until at best, August or September of next season. So I am absolutely in favor of, if you're making a move for a pitcher, it being someone that you have for at least next year as well.
Yeah. You start talking about giving up, say, a Connor Norby. Right. You don't want to give him for a rental.
Yep. I completely agree with that. All right, Stan is here. It is a Friday edition of the program. The Orioles are going to be on Sunday Night Baseball this week, and we will chat with Buster Olney from ESPN coming up next about all of these topics and more. It is a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
Make the most out of every day in your Toyota RAV4. Available in hybrid or gas-only models. A RAV4 can get you where you want to go in style. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new RAV4s from your local Toyota dealer today.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin, and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The latest edition of Press Box is available now, and on the cover, Glenn Clark and Stan the Fan Charles sit down for a sports conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, discussing the Orioles and Ravens stadium leases, the future of horse racing in Maryland, and how his own football career at Johns Hopkins shaped him as a leader. This is also our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities in Maryland for your family to take advantage of throughout the summer. Press Box is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
One of the things that's definitely wrong with this country is that this dude still has a job somehow, some way. Glenn Clark.
All right, back in here on GCR as we continue on a Friday edition of the program. Stan the Fan Charles is in studio with us.
Was that a zinger?
Yeah.
By Drew Forrester?
Yes, that was a zinger from Drew Forrester.
Wasn't funny.
Oh, no?
No.
Oh,
wasn't
man.
funny at all.
Man.
I wouldn't take that from him.
Nah, well, trust me. Wait till he sees what's waiting for him in his stocking this year. Today's show is also brought to you by Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. And, of course, Sports and Social is always the best place to watch all of the big events. whether that's the soccer going on right now or perhaps later on this summer, All-Star Game, Home Run Derby, Olympics, whatever it is, there's no better place to watch than right there inside Sports and Social, the giant media wall, great food and drink specials. And right now, Live Casino Rewards members have the opportunity to earn discounts on cash and credit purchases at the casino. Join the Live Casino Rewards Club online or in person at Live today. See complete details, livecasinohotel.com. Sunday Night Baseball back in Baltimore this week. That means, among others, our friend Buster Olney will be back here in town. And Buster's back with us here on GCR this morning. Buster, it's Glenn. Stan, the fan Charles, is in studio with me this morning. Thank you, as always, for taking the time for us.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning, guys. How are you?
You know, everything's much better than when the Orioles had lost 5 straight, and everybody around here was a little bit worried. I think, Buster, and we put it this way. Obviously, it's been a good couple of days, and the Yankees are a mess, so the Orioles are back in first place. I still think that the lesson of the last week is, for as good as the Orioles are, and we know they are, they're very, very good. If they want to win a World Series, it's going to require them to add at least one starting pitcher at the deadline, correct?
That's what I think. It's interesting because, the Yankees have World Championship, elite guys with Judge and with Soto, and I think Volpe's obviously excellent. The rotations are really good. But the last 2 weeks, man, they have had some weaknesses exposed. And the Orioles, have more position player talent than any organization in baseball. There's so much to love about them. You feel like the group of players will learn from their experience of the postseason last year, and yet they've got gaping weaknesses. Right now, at this very moment, I think the best overall team in the American League, I think, is actually Cleveland, which is excellent, pitching, as always. Their offense is greatly improved. Their defense is really good. So that's kind of the standard, I think, that the Orioles, have to aim for as we go to the deadline, measure them up against the other teams in the American League. And I agree with you. I think that they need to have a starting pitcher at least. And like a lot of other contenders, they'll be looking for bullpen depth.
Buster, do you have a couple names out there that you have your eyes on as potential targets for Mike Elias? Because we're throwing names like Eric Fetty, Patrick Corbin, maybe a Nathan Eovaldi, but do you have a couple names out there that you think might make sense for Elias to look into?
Yeah, and it's interesting because when I spoke with other executives with other teams, they're looking at the market and they think someone like Fetty, might fit the Orioles in terms of asking price and what they might be willing to pay, where you could upgrade the rotation without necessarily going deep. If you want to get an impact pitcher, if you want a guy who can start the number 1 or number 2 game in the American League Championship Series and a World Series, Garrett Crochet is going to be the number 1 guy in the marketplace. The White Sox left-hander, I mean, he's physical. He's, and with 4+ years of service time, he's clearly is developed into one of the elite left-handers in the sport. The White Sox have been signaling to other teams. They're not really sure if they're going to trade him, but they haven't signed him to a long-term deal. It's a lot like Burns and the Brewers. At some point, they're going to have to make a decision. I think a lot of teams will be trying to pry Crochet away from the White Sox, much in the way that teams are trying to do that with Dylan Cease. And further on down the line, once you get past Crochet, a team to watch, I think, for the Orioles, going to be what the Blue Jays do. Like, I think Chris Bassett is an absolutely perfect fit for the Orioles because he's a plow horse. He's under team control with his contract for next year, $20 million. He's just a veteran guy who's pitched in all kinds of situations. I think Toronto got to be getting close to where their front office is going to wave the white flag and start thinking about retooling the team. He would be an interesting guy. You say Kikuchi, also interesting, but for me, not as interesting as Bassett. As Bassett is.
One question about Crochet. Do you have concerns this year, being his first year as a starter again, that he's going to hit the wall just when you need him in terms of innings?
100%, Stan. I mean, that is absolutely the case, but it's also part of the reason why, I've been surprised when I've heard other teams say that the White Sox seem very lukewarm in the idea of trading him. It's like, man, you have a hot stock like that.
Yeah.
you take advantage of it. That's why I'm surprised, too. What I'm hearing from teams is that Mason Miller, that dominant closer for the Oakland Athletics, the A's are kind of, their body language is that, well, maybe we'll trade him, maybe we're not. How about no? You trade him.
Yeah.
Like, you get someone with that kind of, volatility perhaps in performance or injury, you move him. You saw guys last year where, Aroldis Chapman got off to a great start for the Kansas City Royals. They flipped him in early June to Texas, and they got Cole Reagan's back. You got to believe that at some point the White Sox, the A's will get into that posture as opposed to this really passive posture.
Yeah, I don't understand, Buster. You hold on to Mason Miller so that next year when you're playing in a AAA stadium, you can spend all that money to go out and turn into a winner and then try to win with him. I don't know what you're talking about. It makes Buster Olney with us here on GCR. But, Buster, okay, so just if you were the Orioles, and would you be willing to pay, a Kobe Mayo type price, Samuel Basallo type of price for a Crochet, or do you feel like, hey, as much as you want to try to win this year with Corbin Burns, it's got to be out of that second group. You got to be targeting. We bring up Fetty. Fetty does really seem like the guy that makes the most sense here. You've got to be targeting something that doesn't cost you one of those top three, Holiday, Mayo, Basallo prospects. It's got to come from that group of Norby or Kjerstad or whatever it is beneath that.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it all comes down to what their internal evaluation of a Crochet is. I can be a baseball nerd and give you the statistics, but the questions that are being asked in the Orioles front office are, I'm sure, the one that Stan just asked about the durability and the history, and can he go to 160 innings, and is this guy, going to continue to be the impact pitcher that we've seen? And if that's the case, and you're the Orioles, and at this point the goal is to get to the mountaintop, I do think, that would be, for me, the preference, especially because you'd have them under team control for next year. But I really think one of the more interesting things, and I'm going to talk about this on Sunday Night Baseball this week, that I'm going to be fascinated by with the new Orioles ownership is, what's the dynamic between the owner and the general manager, Mike Elias? We've seen so many situations in the past where a team will get close. When Mike Elias was with the Houston Astros, he and Jeff Luhnow did an amazing job of building up that team. They get to the trade deadline, in August in 2017. They have trade talks with the Tigers about Justin Verlander. Luhnow says, no, I don't like the asking price. And it was Jim Crane, the owner, stepped in and said, hey, you know what? Now's the time.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's make the big strike, and basically, told him, look, let's pay the extra 10% in value or whatever they assessed it to be, and they push it across the line. That happens a lot. And then on the flip side, you guys remember, I think a turning point in Orioles history was in '96 when Pat Gillick at the trade deadline arranged trades with Bobby Bonilla,
and
David Wells, and Angelos killed the deals because he felt like, we've sold tickets. I don't want to, suddenly go into rebuild mode, and the team wound up making the playoffs. We don't know yet what the dynamic is between the new Orioles ownership and the front office. If they need an extra 10% of value, will the owners push it across the line?
They played it close to the vest so far. David Rubenstein, he's talked a lot, and every time he's talked, he said, "I'm deferring."
Talks glowingly of Michael Elias.
No question
and the job
about
he's
it.
done.
And that's my instinct, that's my instinct. But I don't really know David.
Yep.
My instinct is that he's going to look at Mike and say, "Look, he's earned the right to be deferred to." But I do think in the end there are times when making a big expensive trade is something that makes a modern-day front office queasy, where the owners needed to step in and say, hey, you know what, now's the time.
I got a question to ask you, Buster, about Corbin Burns. I seem to be in a distinct minority in Baltimore that thinks that we may make a real effort to re-sign him and extend him. Most people in the media and fans I talk to think he's purely a rental. You have a thought about that?
You start with the two words that everyone starts with when you're talking about a player like that, and that's Scott Boras, who represents him. And 95% of Scott's clients wind up taking the biggest offer on the table. Yeah. And so when Corbin goes into the marketplace, if the Orioles have the biggest offer on the table, then, probably that's got a better chance to happen. considering where the Orioles payroll is and where it has been, can I see them paying a pitcher $30 to $35 million a year? I have my doubts. Okay. This might be a case where, and I don't mean to, Corbin, it's totally up to him. It's his prerogative where he signs, but it might come down to how much value he places on where he is. The same dynamic is going on with Juan Soto and the Yankees. And Juan Soto also represented by Scott Boras.
Yep. Buster, I wondered, because you brought up the bullpen a second ago, a lot of people in Baltimore would like for the bullpen acquisition to be a replacement of Craig Kimbrel as closer, that Craig Kimbrel would be just another leverage arm and that you go get a definitive closer. But I don't know. We bring up Mason Miller. I don't think the Orioles would be the team to pay the exorbitant price for Mason Miller, knowing what we know about Mike Elias and the Pythagorean model. I think a lot of us were thinking maybe that could be a Ryan Helsley, but again, the Cardinals, everyone in the National League is in it at this point, so I don't think that's an option. Is there a definitive, if you acquire this player, that this guy would be your closer, or is it more likely that you're finding, like a closer B, a guy that can go on the nights where Kimbrel maybe doesn't have it or has been worked a lot? Is it likely that if you're acquiring an arm at this point, it probably isn't a definitive Kimbrel replacement?
Yeah, I think that's probably the safe play. And we've seen in the Orioles' move so far, generally speaking, that's the way they lean. You get someone who has some experience in that role. I'd say this. Part of your evaluation is Craig Kimbrel clearly values the role of closer in a way that a lot of, relievers don't really care as much these days. It's important to him to be the closer. There are times when he's been a free agent, and that's the message that's gone out to teams that are interested. Yeah, if you get Craig, he's got to be your closer. And so the question is, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but I know that when he's been out of that closer role, he's really struggled. And so if you bring in someone that you think might ascend into that role, you also, given the history, you have to sort of assume that, that would mean that we might not have Craig Kimbrel in the way we want him. Which is why so often I think in recent years with him, you go down the stretch, and the Dodgers did this with him, where they try to work it out so that he's the closer, and if the performance turns, then they go to the plan B. I expect that's how the Orioles have set themselves up as they go down the stretch.
Buster, I got a couple questions that are off Orioles for just a second. I know you weren't part of the broadcast at Rickwood Field last week, but I was wondering what you thought of Reggie Jackson's comments before the game.
Just dead honest. And I really, it's interesting because I met Reggie in 1998, and what I've noticed in recent years is that when you just have conversations with him about his experience in baseball, that is, those feelings, those memories are coming more and more to the surface.
Yep.
I thought it was great.
I did
that
too.
He was being dead honest about what his experience was. And it's part of the reason why I really hope that baseball moving forward decides that they're going to play that game in Rickwood every year, so that every year we have those conversations. I covered the first Jackie Robinson game in 1997, and if you guys remember, it wasn't like everyone came out at number 42 at the beginning. There were just a small handful of players who asked to wear the jersey, and then over time, within 4 or 5 years, baseball players began to think, this is a really great thing. And I hope that's what happens with the game in Rickwood, where, for example, the Kansas City Royals go in and wear Monarchs uniform and have conversations about Satchel Paige, and have those real conversations like Reggie brought up and on the broadcast.
Yeah, I was really touched and moved by Reggie Jackson, because while I understood the celebratory nature of what the game was about, it was a stark reminder of what the game really was about, was the racism in this country that, had the Negro League. So that was, I'm glad you felt the same way. Buster, the Toronto Blue Jays, you mentioned them a little while ago about waving the white flag. Are you hearing anything about the manager's tenure there, John Schneider?
I have not heard anything this morning, and I've been asking the question all week. Do you think they would do this? Do you think they would make a change in midseason? And the wide response from inside and outside the organization is that would be silly. To blow out the manager, it would be it would absolutely be throwing some meat to the mob. versus real change. He is not responsible for what happened this year. They had a more mediocre offense last year. They decided not to, after flirtation with Shohei Ohtani, decided not to do a major upgrade. And so they got more of the same. Big shocker. And it's been a huge problem. So can I tell you for sure that it wouldn't happen? No, but I can also tell you that all said, John Schneider's not responsible for what's going on with them this year. The fact is that what happened in the playoffs last year when he moved Barrios after 4 innings because of the script that they, developed with the front office before the game, that's really hurt his standing with the players. He has been viewed, I think that move kind of made the players feel like, this guy has no real power in this organization.
Isn't that, though, kind of the role of managers in baseball anymore? Isn't that just sort of the way that it works?
Well, it doesn't work that way everywhere. I mean, you guys witnessed firsthand the Texas Rangers last year.
That's true.
Chris Young basically handed the team to Bruce Bochy, and and says it's your team. And during the playoffs, you guys remember the game where Bradford came in, and there was no script for that. Boch just watched this guy with an ERA close to 6, roll up zeros and just left him out there.
That's true. Hey, Buster, if I could, before we let you go, we were talking to Kirkchen this week. I had this really great conversation with Anthony Santander this week, and obviously he's been red hot this month, but I think a lot of people around here have just sort of assumed with the Orioles having so many, particularly corner outfield prospects or, first base DH types, that probably Anthony Santander doesn't have a future in Baltimore. But I started poking around a little bit, and I'm starting to get the sense there might be more of an appetite for trying to do like a 3-year deal with Anthony Santander, that they believe his value as a leader, as a switch hitter in particular, is really significant. Do you have any sense about whether or not there's a future for Anthony Santander in Baltimore as he goes into free agency this year with the Kobe Mayos and the likes coming on the way?
Yeah, I have not specifically asked that question, so I can't give you specific information that's the way they would go. But where the Orioles are with how young they are, that would make complete sense to me that they would explore it. Now, you would assume that if there is a deal, because of the depth they have among outfield prospects, it would have to be essentially on the Orioles' terms.
Right.
Yeah.
And maybe Anthony, given his his journey in baseball, if someone, and I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, is offered $35 million, $36 million over 3 years, maybe that's something he would jump at. But it's also possible that his agent would say, you know what, you're valued by other teams. Let's go out in the marketplace and test that.
Understandable. Completely understandable. All right, of course, obviously Sunday Night Baseball is on ESPN this week. And then, Buster, can we plug the podcast for you?
Yeah, Baseball Tonight podcast. It's on 3 times a week. Fun conversations. We had another one with Jeff Berry, the former agent, today about player value. He talked a lot with us recently about the free agency of Josh Hader and the Hader rules.
Oh, that is compelling. Obviously, that's going to be a topic that's probably going to come up a little bit more. At Buster_ESPN on Twitter is how you follow him. Buster, always appreciate it, man. Thank you for taking some time.
Great stuff, Buster.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.
Buster Olney with us here on GCR. A couple people on Twitter have already put, would the Blue Jays be willing to deal with the Orioles, particularly for non-rental players? Yeah, I don't know if they're anticipating a rebuild. If they're trading Vlad, then I don't know that they care who they trade to. Remember that the Orioles traded Zach Britton to New York, right? If you're going into that mode of we don't think we're going to be competing next year, then I think the rules of the division get thrown out the window. If you're just trying to trade off specific parts and continue to compete, then yeah, you probably want to avoid trading within the division and having to face those players the following year. But
the really perplexing player for me up there is I would have never imagined that Bo Bichette this early in his career would have a season like he's having this year.
I get it. It's interesting. I don't know if you saw the thing. I guess apparently Vlad Jr. had been saying for some time, and I don't even know why it had come up, I'd never play for the Yankees.
Right, now he's
a week and a half ago, somebody asked him to revisit it, and he was like, well, look, I'm not trying to walk it back, but I talked to my dad, I understand that it's a business and that's baseball, and you're like, maybe they really might be preparing to sell everything. Yeah. Maybe they're thinking about that. I don't know. And it's fascinating when he brings it up because, Bassett would be a very compelling.
Bassett would be a very
Kikuchi would be an extraordinarily compelling fit.
A lot less expensive than Bassett.
Yeah.
But Bassett is a workhorse.
No question about it.
And he's somebody, if you acquired him and you got him next year for $20 million, he takes the place of Corbin Burns.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
Then you add somebody else to go with the group.
But as I said, if it's going to be between the Blue Jays and the Orioles, it would have to be because the Blue Jays have decided we don't think we can win next year either.
Yeah.
It's not if they think they're going to if this is just sell off some parts and go back at it next year.
It's a tough market though to kind of give up, say we're going to do what the Orioles did.
Oh, that's very difficult.
And they're an entirely different financial.
And they just spent a lot of money to upgrade the ballpark and
I think they're going to do tweaks.
Yeah, and if they're doing tweaks, I don't think they're trading with the Orioles.
It depends what the return is.
Yeah, that's fair, right? If the Orioles are willing to say, if the Orioles offer them
Connor Norby, I'm not saying that alone would get the deal done, but Connor Norby Bassett is an interesting starting point.
If it's Heston Kjerstad in the conversation, that's a very compelling. But
maybe he juices his value up. Hopefully, he juices his value up. And maybe it's a Cowser.
That's the real reason why he was man of the match last night. Actually, that's the real.
So
send that around to the GMs, please.
You can say what you want about Cowser and how disappointing he's been in some regards, but Cowser would be a major upgrade to the Blue Jays over Kevin Kiermaier.
Well, I mean it's a low bar. Yeah, right. I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
I was really what Buster said was so true about them. It's not John Schneider's fault. They made a flirtation with Ohtani
and then did nothing.
And then they thought, nah, we're gonna get Isaiah Kiner-Falefa.
That'll be enough.
And I mean, I have to admit, Justin Turner, I thought would drive in 75, 85 runs this year. He's been. Big disappointment.
That base hit on Ben Rice is going to turn it around.
That's going to be the moment. Ben Rice not fielding the ball at first base last night. Everything's going to change for Justin Turner.
I've had a couple people telling me how impressed they were with Rice. He didn't impress me.
He's big. He looks
me at all.
He looks the part. Like when you see him, you say, that guy could probably hit the crap out of a baseball. It's the Tyler Locklear, who unfortunately just got sent down by the Mariners this week. From Archbishop Curley. Like you see him and you're just like, that looks like a guy that can probably pulverize a baseball.
No, he was from Archbishop Curley. I owned him in fantasy baseball for about 3 weeks.
You would have never done that to him if
right. He'd still be at the big league level if you hadn't picked him up. Thanks a lot, jerk. That's our guy. We love Tyler Locklear.
You didn't tell me that. You should have told me that 3 weeks ago.
I love Tyler. Tyler's a great kid, and I've known his dad. Known his dad
for a long
time.
And I won't have him. I've already dropped him.
Oh, you already gave up on Tyler Locklear.
His trending is going to go.
This is the moment. Bye on Tyler Locklear because Stan gave up on him. You had a show last night, Stan.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about the failure of Mike Elias to really develop homegrown pitching up to this point, which I think is a fair comment.
So I don't know that I disagree. I mean, part of that obviously is the way they've drafted, right? Like clearly they have not prioritized pitching in the draft.
But you would think in 5 years that somebody they drafted.
Right.
Now I'm taking nothing away from Mike on the Bradish trade or the Povich trade, and they've been lifesavers in some regards. But you'd think a 5th rounder or a 6th rounder, they would have identified somebody that their development people would have gotten to the finish line by now.
Yep, that's fair. I mean, Grayson was the last drafted pitcher
and he was drafted by Dan Duquette.
Exactly right. Yep. That's interesting. All right, you can find that show right now. Stan and Eric Garfield talking about that. Facebook.com/PressBoxSports.
We also, not to interrupt you, we also talked a little bit about the number 1 ranking the Orioles system had. Was it really, truly, were they number 1?
Right.
There's no question that
they were top heavy.
Gunnar and Westberg are real good players, but none of the rest of the players. Now, maybe Kjerstad's ready to go on a tear, and we'll say, hey, okay. But Stowers, Kerstad up to this point, Kauser, they really have, and there's no pitching. So are they? They're no longer number 1, but are they number 6, number 8, number 9?
You can find that right now. As I mentioned, Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. Click on the videos tab, or go to YouTube.com/PressBoxOnline or PressBoxOnline.com/video. Any of those locations. And you, Ross and Luke, back together this coming Monday?
Should be. Yep.
Very good. Yep. So you'll be able to find all of that at Facebook.com/PressBoxSports. When we come back in, Stan gives his breakdown of the U.S.'s 2-1 loss to Panama.
That wrong-footed goal.
It was a hell of a night for American L's on Fox. If you tuned into Fox last night, you saw a lot of losses for America. That was what you got. I don't have anything to add to it. I didn't get to watch the match, unfortunately, but there's no debate that it was a red card. Like, there's no hiding behind. I was trying to get the internet seemed to think that like he had been goaded a little bit into it. Maybe he was, but there's still, you can't go to someone's head and think you're not getting a red card. There's no way around it, and now they're going to have to get a result against Uruguay, and that will not be easy for them to do on Monday if they want to advance. So bad news for Jeremy Kahn.
Yeah, I guess he was right.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to trade. You should have took off my trade. I was going to give him Colombia.
Ooh, that would have been a mistake for you, pal. It would have been a big mistake.
Or I would have taken
Slovenia
or something.
Yeah, sure. Are they the ones that made it?
I think they did. Yeah.
And Proctor still hasn't updated the sheet to reflect that.
The brackets.
You can fix that. Nick Kelly moved into a tie for first place, by the way, with me. So we're both sitting at 21 points in our bracket. You and Jeremy Kahn tied at the bottom of the table. John in Little Rock has passed you.
Slovenia gets a struggling Portugal, though.
Ooh,
Does John have Portugal?
Gross. Could be big. That could be big.
A big matchup.
Could be big. When we come back in, we'll talk more about the Rangers, who the Orioles saw for the first time last night. And we'll see for 3 more times this weekend. Former Oriole Mark McLemore joins us next. Stan's here. It's Glenn Clark Radio.
Whether your focus is luxury and comfort, convenience and technologically advanced connectivity, or sporty performance and aggressive styling, we've got the perfect Highlander for you. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Highlanders from your local Toyota dealer today.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Discover one of Baltimore's hidden gems at Guilford Hall Brewery. Enjoy dinner in our spacious brew pub, sip a signature cocktail in our outdoor dog-friendly beer garden, or take a tour of our brewery. Discover your new favorite local craft beer. From crisp lagers to hoppy ales, there's something for everyone to enjoy. Pair your brew with delicious appetizers and entrees. There are options for the whole family, but you have to try our fan-favorite giant pretzel. Guilford Hall Brewery, where every sip is a celebration. Visit us online at guilfordhall.com.
The latest edition of PressBox is available now, and on the cover, Glenn Clark and Stan the Fan Charles sit down for a sports conversation with Maryland Governor Wes Moore, discussing the Orioles and Ravens stadium leases, the future of horse racing in Maryland, and how his own football career at Johns Hopkins shaped him as a leader. This is also our annual travel issue with information about sports tourism opportunities in Maryland for your family to take advantage of throughout the summer. PressBox is available for free at over 500 locations throughout the region, including 60 Royal Farm stores, or you can read the entire issue at PressBoxOnline.com, where you can find great betting advice and the best daily coverage of the O's, Ravens, and Terps.
The drug scene in Maryland is changing. Fentanyl and xylazine are being added to street drugs, and you may not even know it. Xylazine is not even intended for humans, and fentanyl is an opioid 50 times stronger than heroin and contributed to over 80% of overdose deaths in our state. Anyone who uses drugs, even occasionally, is at risk of overdose. To learn more, visit stopoverdose.maryland.gov or call or text 988.
The days are getting hotter, and so are your Baltimore Orioles. Hi, I'm Paul Valley, and you can join me and Ryan Blake on the Bat-Around every Saturday at 10 a.m. as the Orioles march towards another postseason berth. With a Cy Young candidate in the rotation and multiple MVP candidates in the lineup, this might be the most well-equipped Orioles team to end a decades-long World Series drought. From the Midsummer Classic to the trade deadline and beyond, Ryan and I will be with you through the dog days of summer and into those crisp fall nights. So tune into the Bat-Around every Saturday starting at 10 a.m. right here with PressBox.
Contrary to what some people believe, I actually like this guy when he sleeps. Glenn Clark, talking sports.
All right, back in here on GCR on a Friday edition of the program, and one of the best stories in all of local sports in modern history continued last night. Cam Spencer, drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies in the second round, 53rd pick. Very cool for Loyola folks because Cam, who of course started his collegiate career at Loyola with one Santi Aldama, now they're both playing for the same NBA team. They're both Memphis Grizzlies, which is, kind of one in a million type of stuff that two kids that played at a very small school here in Baltimore would end up being in the NBA together on the same team, which is wild. So congratulations to Cam Spencer, fresh off winning a national championship at UConn. He joins his brother in the NBA, the former Boys Latin star and Davidsonville native. Very cool. So two local kids that both heard their names called. We mentioned Bub Carrington earlier from St. Francis, and Boys Latin's own Cam Spencer getting drafted by the Memphis Grizzlies in the second round last night. Orioles-Rangers series got underway last night with the Birds taking Game 1. Let's talk a little bit more about the Rangers. And to do that, former Baltimore Oriole, second baseman / utility man, defensive standout, and now he does TV work for the Rangers down in Dallas.
And might I add, he's probably the second best number 2 in Oriole history.
Ooh, I'm good with that.
Right, Mark?
I'm good with that. Mark
Right,
McLemore.
Hey, fellas, how you guys doing, man? Second best number 2, huh?
That's right.
I'll take that.
That's not a bad.
That's not bad when the number 1 guy is Gunnar Henderson.
He's okay.
Not at all.
He's okay, that Gunnar Henderson.
He's doing all right. Not too bad.
Right. He might have a future ahead of him.
Hey, Mark, can I jump in and ask you the first question? You ended up having a pretty lengthy career in the big leagues, and I think it all turned around in Baltimore for you, that you really found your value, and it was being able to play multiple positions. But could you talk a little bit about what the time in Baltimore meant to you?
Well, you're absolutely right. The Orioles organization, Johnny Oates, Doug Melvin, they gave me that opportunity to be an everyday player again. I started my first 5 years with the Angels. Yep. Things were up and down. Anyway, ended up in Baltimore and just got the opportunity to play. It really revived my career, no question.
And obviously, it worked out pretty well moving forward for you, as Stan mentioned, playing a long time. Look, last year, we don't like thinking back on what happened last year here in Baltimore, Mark, because, it didn't go. The last time we were talking to you, we had all the excitement in the world here in Baltimore, and it ended just a couple days later. That being said, what that team was able to do a year ago, why has it been, and I know the pitching injuries stand out, but why has it been so difficult for them to replicate that this season, particularly given all of the young talent on that team?
Well, it's definitely strange, but if you look at it, you look at the injuries to the starting rotation. The rotation had 4 of the starters on the IL at some point this season, a couple of times. That's a big part of it. Corey Seager's been injured a couple of times on the IL, a couple of times as well. Not the second time with the hamstring, but that's slowed him down a little bit. You talk about the absence of Mitch Garver, that a big power bat in the middle of the lineup. He's now in Seattle. And I know Wyatt Langford is a young up-and-coming player, and he's getting there, and he will be that. I think they were wanting him to show a little bit more power, and that will come. And man, I tell you what, Josh Young at third base, that's a huge bat and a huge glove. That's not in our lineup. And these aren't excuses. It's part of the game. Every team experiences injuries, and that's just part of it. You have to deal with it because your opposition doesn't care. So it's just one of many things that just haven't gone their way.
Mark, the one name I didn't hear mentioned in there was Evan Carter. It's been so long since Soto when he was 19 that was playing at that level at playoff time. What's happened to him this year? Because it's certainly not the same confident player that we saw last October.
No, well, one of the things is he's been playing injured and found out he had a stress fracture in his back, and that plays a huge part. Again, it sounds as though it's an excuse, but that's just not it. It's just the fact that he, number one, got off to a slow start, and then with the injury, tried to play through it, and that just didn't make it any better. He's a young player and wanting to get out there and try to play through some pain, not really knowing the severity of his injury, and it just didn't turn out well. And I think he'll learn from this and probably not try and do that through his career. But, man, just off to a slow start, and the injury's really setting back.
Mark, obviously saw Max Scherzer, came back, looked pretty good. The Orioles will see him tonight here in Baltimore. How confident are you that Max Scherzer is still Max Scherzer and can be a difference maker to get things turned around moving forward?
Well, he can help. He's not going to be the savior because everybody else in the rotation has to be a little bit more consistent to follow him up, and then the offense has to kick in. But I'll tell you what, I watched his last start, the first start off the IL for the season, and, man, he looked really, really good. He could have gone another inning, but I think they just wanted, hey, okay, that's it. Let's end on a good note. Got the lead, and just he looked excellent. Every pitch was working, the location, the command was there, the velocity was where he wanted it to be. So I thought it was a really, really good outing and a good sign for the Rangers.
The trade deadline looks like it's going to be a really fascinating conversation in Texas, right? Like, this is not an organization that sells. Like, this is a team that's typically aggressive. What do you make of what the next couple of weeks might do for their decision-making at this point?
I love the opportunity. I'll tell you something about Chris Young. Former player, obviously, won a World Series as a player and now as a general manager. This guy is not going to sit on his hands. And this is before they won the World Series as well. And he's going to continue that aggressive job of, hey, I want to make my team better every day. How do I do that? Let's explore it. And that's what he spends his time doing, figuring out how to make this organization a better organization and team every single day. And whether that means, hey, sending a guy down that's got a couple years big league time in, bringing up a young guy, shaking things up, making trades, doing whatever, Chris Young is going to get the job done. I just love the fact that he's open to it and nothing is set in stone.
Curious, you get to watch him a good bit. The name Andrew Heaney is one that just popped into my head. Would he be a good fit in Baltimore?
I think with the way Andrew Heaney's been pitching, he could be a good fit anywhere. I mean, you look at him; he can start. He can give you 5, 6, 7 innings if he's efficient with his pitches out of the starting rotation, or if you bring him out of the bullpen as a long guy. This guy is so valuable. Mm-hmm. He's been very consistent. They just haven't scored a lot of runs for him. He's got the lowest run support on the staff. And one of the lowest in the league, actually. So he's pitching extremely well, fastball, curveball combination, and when he's mixing those up efficiently, he's one of the best left-handers in the game.
Mark McLemore is with us here on GCR. We're talking about Orioles-Rangers series continues tonight here in Baltimore. Mark, you obviously we talked about the injuries earlier. Is there anything to be made of the proverbial World Series hangover? Like, have you felt any of that, or is it really just related to like some of the bad luck that they've gone through this year?
I just think it's part of the game, but I don't think it's World Series hangover. These guys are hungry. They want to go out there, and believe me, they want to win 2 in a row. But it just doesn't always work out that way. And if you look, you guys know the history of the game. How many teams repeat, first of all? Not saying that it can't happen. It's just very difficult to do. A lot of things have to line up for you year after year for that to happen. Last year, things lined up for them perfectly. And now this year, it's just more difficult. It's not as easy. You look at injuries. Other teams are better. Speaking of Orioles, even as good as they were last year, they're even better this year because they have more experience and they understand a lot more than they did when they first came up. And so they're just a myriad of things that can get in the way of a season. 1 injury, 2 injuries, 10 injuries can derail a team for the entire year.
We mentioned, obviously, if I could, like to come to the Orioles because we joke about Gunnar Henderson. You see this young man, you know a thing or two about tools, Mark McLemore. This young man seems to have all of them. We start to almost get carried away about, are we looking at someone who could go down and, we have to see if his career keeps him in Baltimore long term, but are we looking at someone that might be capable of being one of the greatest Orioles of all time? In the little bit that you have seen of Gunnar Henderson, do you start to think that this is going to end up truly being a generational type of baseball player that we are watching?
Man, I'll tell you what. For me, I don't like putting a lot of that kind of pressure on a young player, and you just don't know. There might be a handful of people that I saw throughout my career right as I got to the big leagues and after, because I think that's when you really know what that one dimension or one generational player looks like. I got a handful, maybe. Mm-hmm. So it's tough to put him in that category. Having a great year, an awesome year, but for me, I like to see players come up. Hey, have a great year. Okay, great. Come back, do it again, because the opposition is going to make changes. They're going to make adjustments every single year. And so come back, have another good year. Great. Come back and have another one. And then I might even let you have an off one, but you still have to come back for 4 or 5 years and show that you can get it done on a consistent basis, because there are so many flashes in the pan. A guy that has, a good year and that's it, or a good month or two and that's it, because they're not able to make those adjustments. So I love this young kid. I love the enthusiasm and the fire that he brings to the game. It's just hard to say, hey, this is going to be that one generational player and put him up there with the greats of all the Orioles before him. I'm going to hold off on that one because there are a whole lot on that list. A couple of them I played with and a lot against. So I just let this guy go out there and play and keep racking up the numbers and helping that team win.
Mark's got a vested interest, though. He wants to
still be number
he wants to be the number one, number two.
Listen, I am long down that list of number twos in Orioles history.
I think you're number two. I'm telling you, I think you're
J.J. Hardy's got a strong argument, man. J.J. Hardy's got a heck of an argument.
He does have. I forgot he wore number two. He's number three in the number two business.
Mark,
obviously, nobody's been wearing number two for a long time.
That's right. It's a sparsely worn number.
Mark, if I could, before we let you go, we've talked so much over the last couple of weeks about the future of balls and strikes, and it does look like Major League Baseball, by implementing the challenge system throughout AAA, it looks like that's the final stop before it comes to Major League Baseball. Are you good with the challenge system? Is that the right way for baseball to address this? Should it be going fully automated? And do you have a sense for, how many challenges teams should have during the course of a game to make sure we get this right?
I don't particularly like it. I don't care for it because I think it takes the human element out of the game.
Okay.
There's already been a lot of that taken out. And yes, it's about getting the call right. But then what happens to the umpires on the field? What do they become? What do you call them now? Because what is their job? If it's automated, they're gone. There's nothing to do. I like that interaction with the umpires. A lot of that's gone away. The banter back and forth. I call it banter. It's okay when somebody gets kicked out. I think that's an exciting part of the game that's kind of been taken away. But man, I know it's probably more efficient, but is everything about efficiency, or is this entertainment? You want to be the best? But man, I just hate to lose that or another piece of the human element for this game.
Does the challenge system give you both of those things? That it keeps value for the umpires, but also does allow for, hey, in big spots we can fix these things because everybody gets things wrong. It is a hard job to do.
You could argue that's a good point, but if everything is challenged, okay, number one, we're talking about time, and you can put a time limit on, okay, making a decision, but then that, to me, that slows everything down. It just slows it down, and man, I just think having the human element is there. And then, okay, how many challenges is right throughout the course of a game? Because if an umpire is off at home plate, he may be off more for one team than the other, or he's off on both and just has an absolute bad day. How many challenges is that? Is it 3 a game? Is it 5? Is it 10? What's the right amount? Because you can pick an at bat or 2 where you got 2 or 3 pitches in an at bat. And then, so what is that right number, and who's to say what that right number is? There's just a lot that, to me, that it just takes away from the game.
It's very fair. Very fair. Mark McLemore, it's always great to catch up with you, man. Looking forward to the rest of this series here this weekend in Baltimore. Thank you for spending a couple of minutes with us this morning. We really appreciate it.
Oh, anytime, fellas, always.
Thanks, Mark.
Mark McLemore with us here on GCR on a Friday edition of the program. I appreciate him taking the time for us. So I don't know if that happened since the last, because you weren't in here last Friday.
Yeah.
That Major League Baseball said, hey, everywhere at AAA, we're going to the challenge system.
Yeah.
That's the way it's going to be for every game.
And how many challenges do they?
So that's the interesting
3
part.
Per team?
Most places it's 3. In the International League, where Norfolk plays, it's actually only 2.
2 per team.
Per game, yeah.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I don't think that's it. And
it doesn't do it for me.
Talking to a lot of people around baseball, they're like, you're sort
of addressing a problem by saying, well, it's not really that big a problem,
right? And you potentially cause more problems. This is I brought up the NFL jumped over backwards to try to fix the thing that happened in the Saints-Rams game a few years back. Right. Only to not be able to fix it whatsoever. If that situation unfolds in a game this year, in an NFC Championship game, there will be nothing that they can do about it, because they were like, it didn't really work, so sorry, we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and we're abandoning it altogether.
Remind me what
This was the egregious pass interference at the end of the
right.
So then they overreacted and said, let's challenge pass interference, and then the officials all said, well, we're never going to overturn it. We're just not going to do that. And instead of instituting a eye in the sky, a non-field official to be responsible for, hey, you missed something egregious here, let's fix it so that it doesn't embarrass us on a national level and have the story of this game. And they just won't do that. Yeah. And so now they have no mechanism by which, if the exact same thing happens in this year's NFC Championship game, and there's an egregious missed pass interference on the final play of the game, they're just going to shrug their shoulders.
Right.
Say, well, we tried, it didn't work. Now we have to live with it.
I'd love to know what the debates are in there. You're spending all this money and energy on the technology and testing it and all that, and then after a couple of years you say, you know what we're going to do with all this technology is we'll give teams 2 challenges a game. That does, you're talking about in every game close to 300 pitches.
Correct.
Probably total.
Correct.
And you're going to give 4 challenges in the whole game.
And their argument would be, well, we don't want to. We're not really trying to fix every call. We're just trying to fix the calls in big spots, right? Well, how do you know?
Right.
By the way,
a big spot?
That strikeout that led off the second inning could have been the start of a rally that would have turned into 4 runs. This is nonsense that now teams are going to have to sit back and say, well, that one was wrong, but we can't challenge it because then we might be out of a challenge for a big spot. It's nonsense.
The other aspect of this that isn't talked about that much is, again, protecting pitchers' arms. In other words, you've only got, as Buck Showalter would say, you only got enough bullets in your arm for so much. I can't tell you how many times I've watched a pitcher get screwed on one call, then give up 5-6 foul balls in a row, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Then the batter battles back, walks. Mm-hmm. Next guy hits a double. All hinge, and he had to throw 25 more pitches.
When he should have been out of it.
When he should have been out of it.
It actually happened to Povich a couple of starts ago, right?
Yeah.
Where 100% got squeezed on and then...
I can't cite chapter and verse.
Right.
But I remember one game watching Kevin Gausman as a young pitcher got screwed out of a 3rd strike, and I watched it balloon from an 8-pitch inning to a 28-pitch inning.
So I have always, and I think we've talked about it before, I've always said that I'm 100% in favor of fully automated balls and strikes. The players are not. It is all unanimous, essentially. The players, I thought it was just the hitters. The pitchers don't want fully automated balls and strikes either. So what's the number? Like, if you're gonna do the challenge thing, what would be the number in order to make this right?
I don't know, because again, it comes back down to you're addressing a problem, and then by the number you're setting initially, you're saying it's not really that big a problem. Well, then why do it at all?
That's fair. And they would say, hey, it's not really that you only get 2 challenges per game. You can only get 2 wrong per game, right? Like, if you get it right, you can have as many as you want. Right. And there is something to be said for that, right? Like, there is something.
But if the judgment is based on the video, in other words, so they're putting 100% trust in the video, but only on 2 pitches per team per game,
Potentially.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Potentially. Yeah. I have thought the answer should be 1 per inning per team, right? Like, that would be the way to do it. I didn't get what Mark McLemore said. Hey, you run the risk of these. Baseball believes they have solved a significant problem by shortening the games. And to be clear, the product has been exceptional, as good in modern times as I remember the product being.
You'd like to think, though, that this would take a matter of seconds.
And that's Buck and I were talking about that recently. Like, it should be as simple as.
Yep, that's a strike.
Yep, game. So even
it's
if
not like calling the four. And people waiting,
Right, and then the umpire's got to go back and put the headset on. It should be as simple as the way it works. And this is part of it is me being a tennis person, right? Like, what this has done for tennis has been so simplistic, so easy, and has been such a fix that we can't even imagine the sport without it at this point. Like, and I'm not saying that there wouldn't have been a John McEnroe. I'm sure John McEnroe would have still found something to yell about. But, like, you just don't see it that much anymore. Like, there's still little things that they'll yell at umpires about, but the sport has been so embittered by the Hawkeye technology, it's laughable to think about the sport without it at this point.
I would agree.
And that, to me, is why this is so easy for me. Like, this does not take long. You look up at the screen, it was a ball or a strike, you move on. Even if you do 20 of them during the course of a game,
you're talking about
like the addition of a minute or so.
2 minutes.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Like, that's it. It's not going to make the games go back to being 3.5 hours long. Like, I can't be opposed to the idea of more of it or think that it needs to be down to 2. That number doesn't make sense to me.
It doesn't make sense at all.
All right, Stan is here. We'll grab a break. Scheduled to be joined by Muggsy Bogues. We still need to get to this week and the rest of baseball before we wrap up for a Friday edition of Glenn Clark Radio. Hey, O's fans, gift the experience of Orioles baseball with an Orioles e-gift card. An Orioles e-gift card is the perfect gift for any occasion and can be purchased starting as little as $5. Use e-gift cards to buy game tickets at the box office and online at Orioles.com. Plus, e-gift cards can be redeemed at any concession stand or merchandise location throughout Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Surprise your favorite Orioles fan with an e-gift card today. Visit Orioles.com/gift cards.
The ultimate fan experience awaits you at Sports and Social Maryland. See how we're raising the sports bar with our massive 100-foot media wall featuring 40 HD TVs and a 47-foot big screen. Bet on your favorite teams and this year's biggest events at the FanDuel Sportsbook while enjoying your favorite beers and cocktails, plus our delicious takes on bar food classics. Visit Sports and Social at Live Casino and Hotel Maryland at Arundel Mills. Must be 21. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Hagerstown, Maryland, a snapshot of American history that dates back centuries. Today, the roots of the city expand with another historical moment, the grand opening of Meredith Park, Hagerstown's new event stadium and home to the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Experience the energy, culture, and adventure. Plan your getaway today at America's newest and most innovative ballpark. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland. Visit Hagerstown.com.
The votes were all counted, and the results are official. Royal Farms was named #1 for food in the USA Today 10 Best poll, receiving more votes than any other convenience store chain in America. The next time you want to get some good food fast, doesn't it make sense to go to Royal Farms? Voted best in the USA and home of world-famous chicken. Real fresh, real fast, Royal Farms.
The Toyota Tacoma comes in a range of models and trim lines, so you can choose the perfect Tacoma to reflect your unique personality and driving habits. Check out buyatoyota.com for deals on new Tacomas from your local Toyota dealer today.
Gambling can be a fun and entertaining experience, but there are risks involved. If you're planning on betting on the game at the casino or on your phone or computer, know your limit, stay within it. Set a budget and a time to stop. Remember, gambling isn't a financial solution, and it doesn't mix well with alcohol or drugs. Know the risks and have a plan before you begin gambling. For free and confidential services, call 1-800-GAMBLER 24/7 or go to helpmygamblingproblem.org.
The Ed Block Courage Award Foundation has been working in partnership with the NFL for 46 years to support abused, neglected, and at-risk youth across the country, partnering each team with a children's facility or program that supports the well-being of those in need. Annually, one player from each team is selected by their peers to receive the Courage Award for their inspiration on and off the field. Learn more about how the Ed Block Courage Award Foundation makes a difference, and be sure to check out their latest podcast and web series episodes at edblock.org.
Coming back in here with Glenn and the other guy, Garrett, whatever his name is. You know who they are.
Back in here on GCR, we mentioned a couple of local kids that got drafted this week. Also a good day today for another local basketball player, Emmanuel Quickley of Harford County, John Carroll legend. Just signed a new 5-year deal with the Raptors worth $175 million. So congratulations to IQ. $175 million deal with
we
got
to get in touch with that guy.
Got to somehow figure out a way.
Yeah.
Man, it's impressive. That's impressive.
That is
and congratulations to him. And speaking of local basketball players, our next guest, one of the icons of Baltimore basketball history, of course, Poet Pride, former Dunbar standout, and a great NBA player. And this week, it was another opportunity to celebrate the life and the legacy of his sister here in Baltimore. Pleasure to welcome back to the program Muggsy Bogues, who's with us this morning here on GCR. Muggsy, it's Glenn and Stan in Baltimore. It's always great to catch up with you. Thank you for taking a couple of minutes for us.
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. You say time for $105 million?
$175 million, Muggsy. $175.
Oh, okay. I left the 70 out. The 70 out. $175 million. I think I'm still eligible.
You think you could still step in and give some minutes?
You could give some minutes.
I could give at least 12. I could give at least 10 minutes.
I believe I've seen some of the level of defense. Not the Celtics, obviously, but some other teams have played. I think you could definitely still defend at this point in the NBA.
Are you trying to say he could play for the Wizards?
I think he could play. I think he could sign up tomorrow and play for the Wizards.
Oh. That's just wishful thinking.
Those days are past. Those days are past. Yeah. Muggsy, I think there are people that maybe don't know the story of your sister and the impact that she had here in our city and why we take a day every year to celebrate her life, her legacy. Can you remind everybody about all that and why it's so important for your family?
Oh, absolutely. It was a very special day for our family, for the Bogues family. My sister meant a lot for the city of Baltimore, especially for the youth program. Her tenure at Park and Rec, she overseen BNBL projects as well as the football program. And I'm quite sure all the coaches and the kids really appreciate her leadership, the way she was committed in terms of making sure that the league started on time. It was fairly, everybody had a fair shot of playing against each other. No one was over age. Everybody had to be identified, show their ID. I mean, she was very strict, and it carried over for a long time. And her passing in 2015, the mayor was gracious enough to proclaim her a day on June the 27th. So every year we try to honor her legacy in a way where she will want by having football games as well as basketball, boys and girls, in the city, and the city come out and support her. I mean, it was a beautiful day, and I'm thankful for Park and Rec, Bashard, Tanir, especially my daughter, Taisha Bogues, who really did an amazing job of making sure that everything was efficient, everything was there, everything ran on time, and so forth. So I'm so thankful for her, as well as the fans that came out, as well as the participants, because the kids was really, enjoying themselves, had a great time. And anytime you're seeing them in their element at their highest level, at that time is always a joyful moment. So I'm forever grateful and thankful for having me on to share her story.
I would also add to it, too, what does it mean to you? Obviously, I think everybody knows that you've been living down in Charlotte for a long time, and you're so connected with that city and your basketball legacy there. But how important is it for you? And I know how much the city means to you. I remember reading your book and everything that you went through, the good and the bad, obviously, in this city. How much does it mean to you when you come back to celebrate your sister to be involved and still have your own impact and legacy here in Baltimore?
Well, I mean, it's very special to me. I mean, still being connected, even though that's that one day, but I'm always still going back, throughout the years. Got a lot of family members there. My daughter, my granddaughter, as well as my great is there. So I got a lot of family members there that I love to continue to go back and visit. And my heart is always going to be in Baltimore. But living in Charlotte, being here and doing the things that I'm doing here, it always keeps me in mind that where I came from and the things that made me special as a kid, and knowing that the things that my mom instilled in me, I want to make sure that I continue to spread that around the world, regardless of where I am.
Muggsy, how close do you keep in touch with some of the players you played with back in high school, like Reggie?
Oh, every day, just about every month. I mean, Reg and I, that's my best friend. So, we always going to stay in contact with each other, as well as my other teammates and Daryl Woods, who I call OJ, and, of course, David Wingate, Gary Graham, Keith Wallace, Carl Wallace. I mean, I can go on. And because all those guys are, that was a special bond that we was able to create. And for us to be able to do that and still in still in touch with Coach Wade, who was the orchestrator of it all. So, my friends that I grew up with are still my friends to this day. The players that was for me, the Dwayne Woods, the Kevin Bush, so all of those guys are, always embedded in my heart, and that's something that I always carry with me.
By the way, we're chatting with Muggsy Bogues here on GCR, obviously Baltimore basketball legend. Do you still get – you're such a phenomenon, right? Like, it goes far beyond obviously just being a heck of a basketball player. What I saw recently, you were doing Chuck D's podcast, right? Like, that you're such a pop culture phenomenon. Do you still, find yourself trying to explain – to people that they're like, oh, right, you played on that Dunbar team. Like, what a phenomenon it was to be a part of that group at that time?
Oh, yeah, we do. I mean, because especially today's time, because, the dominant teams that they have today, they form those teams. Kids come from all different places, all from around the world to form those type of teams. We live right in the neighborhood.
Yeah.
We were all friends and competitive against each other as we was growing up, and having the opportunity to go to the same school. And a lot of my family members went to that school as well. I mean, that was a blessing in the skies, knowing we was able to create something special where people felt, as you just alluded to, one of the best high school teams that ever been assembled. But, it would never happen without Coach Wade. Coach Wade was the one that checked all those egos at the door. As so much talent that was coming through that door, he was able to have it all operate as one, where we all understood our roles, what we all brought to the table, and we bought in. And that was something that was very, strategic on his part, how he was able to get that done.
Muggsy, could you have played in the modern NBA and had the success that you had? I'm sure you know what I'm talking. Like, the way the game has changed so much in recent years, and such an impact on scoring specifically. Would you have been able still to thrive and succeed in the modern NBA?
Oh, absolutely. I think any NBA player or any professional player will say any era that they can play.
Sure.
Because, that's just their mindset and, how they was able to accomplish their dreams. And yeah, you're right. The rules have changed. There's no more hand checking. The lane is wide open. No big guys is camping in the lane. They can't touch you as much. I mean, I think I would have thrived. And it's predicated on a lot of shooting today. I mean, I think I would have fared well in today's game. But, that's just how my mind works anyway.
Hey, Muggsy, I was looking, and it reminded me, I was looking at some things about you to talk to you. and I saw you played for Wake Forest. Were you recruited by Carl Tacey?
Yes, I was recruited by Carl Tacey. That was one of the main reasons why I decided to go. Coach was more laid back. The school fit me perfectly. It was a great academic school. It was also one of the toughest conferences in the world at the time, one of the best conferences in the league at the time. And it came on TV Saturday where I could just turn on that TV and watch our little baby every weekend.
So who succeeded him there? Was it Dave Odom?
After Tacey.
After Tacey.
After Tacey, my coach was Bob Stack.
Okay.
Bob Stack came in after that. Then Dave Odom came in after Stack.
Yeah.
So, Muggsy, I remember we've talked a lot, and you've talked a lot in your life about your relationship, of course, with the Currys. And I wonder, like, we're starting to see, it looks like this is going to be the end of the run for the triumvirate. Everybody seems to think that Klay Thompson's going to end up elsewhere this offseason. If this is it for that group, the three of them, obviously, together, where do they go as, like, one of the great trios in basketball history?
They got to be up amongst the highest. I mean, what they was able to accomplish. I mean, 4 championships. I mean, they was considered a dynasty. 72 wins, or 73 wins, but didn't get that championship that year. You know, that kind of haunts them.
Right.
But I think, you know, what they was able to do, I mean, is remarkable. It's not too many franchises they had that type of resume. So those 3 guys would definitely go down in history, you know, as Hall of Famers. But I don't believe it's over for Klay at Golden State.
Really?
I still think it might be a way of. I think he may stay, you know, because of what they have, as you mentioned earlier, what they have accomplished. That's going to be hard to leave. And I don't know if any type of money can replace the type of bond that they have with each other and what they accomplish and the things, how they want to go out. But I don't know. Who knows? Klay may be thinking otherwise. But we'll see. But I think, you know, the meats of the mind will come to a point to where, you know, things were understand that those 3 all need to be together and God the way they all envision.
Muggsy, I don't know how closely you follow the college game, but are you familiar with Bub Charrington's game?
Who's that?
Bub Carrington.
Oh, Bub.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, Bub, Little Bub. You gotta say Little Bub.
Yeah, right? His dad, Carlton, of course.
What do the Wizards have in him now?
Because, you know, you got the big Bub first. That's our guy there. I'm so happy for him. And because, you know, he was only at school for 1 year. And Ben at Pitt, who I have a relation with the coach, and Coach Capel, you know, Coach Capel, his dad was my assistant coach and happened to be on the cover of a magazine when we won the gold medals in '86, taking a picture with each other. So he and I always reminisce about that day. I'm just so happy for Bub, Little Bub. I mean, I think he's going to a good situation. I think Washington has rebuilding, and I think they're trying to go in a direction in a positive way, bringing in these type of players and good character players. And that's what he is, a great character, a two-way type of player that he will flourish under, you know, their system. And he just need to get a vet that's there, take him under his wing, and he'll be fine. I hope that their development program is good as, you know, as others. So with that in mind, I have no doubt that he's going to have a successful career.
And look, obviously we're extraordinarily excited for him and his family, and of course everybody over at St. Francis. I bring that up, and speaking of St. Francis, like we always associate. It's funny because we always associate Baltimore basketball players with guys like yourself, right? Like undersized, chip on the shoulder, like go outwork everybody, defend, make people miserable. Bub is not necessarily undersized, right? Like maybe in the modern NBA, I guess everybody's undersized. It's hilarious that we talk about somebody who's 6'5", and we might say he's undersized. Right? But on the other side, we've now seen, obviously in the women's game, a Baltimore basketball player become an utter phenomenon in Angel Reese. And I just wonder, like when you watch her, how much do you see, oh, that's a Baltimore, that mentality, that attitude, the way that she plays, that's that's Baltimore. That's the way that we are as basketball players.
Well, that's the be more swag.
Yeah.
I mean, that can't be taught. I mean, that just come within, and that's something that we born and bred with, and how we kind of carry ourselves, and how we, have confidence within ourselves, and we don't care about what others say. And I am so proud of her and all that she's done and what she's doing for the game. Being a former WNBA coach, watching the growth of the game and seeing the attention that the women are getting now. And I know everybody basing it on one individual, Caitlin Clark, and you got to give her due.
She's incredible.
And she's tremendous job of being an ambassador of the game, collegiately as well now professionally. And Angel Reese was right along with her. I mean, she's been that type of character builder, that type of representative of LSU, as well as now in the WNBA, and the way she carried herself and conducting herself, and how she's representing herself. And companies are recognizing that as well. And she's with the company that I used to be with, Reebok. And so, found a little of those footsteps and seeing what she's done, I am just happy to seeing, and she gets her roses that definitely are deserving.
9th straight double-double last night for Angel Reese, which is pretty remarkable. I mean, that's nuts.
Against the defending champs.
Yep.
Hey, Muggsy, there used to be a line in a movie called Diner, whether you're a Sinatra guy or an Elvis guy. Are you a LeBron guy or a Michael Jordan guy? Who's the best? Who's the best of all time?
I'm a basketball guy, and when it comes to the basketball, we had so many players that played our game. We had 5,500 that came to our league, which was within the 75 years, 76 years going in existence. So I would never disrespect those guys. And MJ probably would say the same thing coming out of his mouth. He wouldn't call himself that. But in terms of what I've seen and what I witnessed, I mean, the most skillful player that I ever seen was MJ.
I'm with you. We are in agreement about that. Muggsy Bogues, it's so great that you're able to get back here and to continue to celebrate your sister's legacy. And we always look forward to doing this every year and remind everybody about how important she was.
Hey, Muggsy, I'm on the Maryland State Athletic Hall of Fame selection committee. We want you in the Maryland State Athletic Hall of Fame. It's not the University of Maryland. All we're trying to do is 1 year get a commitment that you can come to our banquet, and you're in the Maryland State Athletic Hall of Fame. I speak for every member of the committee. We want you in there.
Yeah, I know. I've been trying to find a time. I really appreciate that, too. Thank you guys for thinking of me in that light.
We always do. You're mentioned every single year, and that's been the last 4 or 5 years. I hope one of these years we can get you in there, okay?
Okay, buddy. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Muggsy Bogues, thank you as always for taking the time for us this morning.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you having me.
Great stuff.
I didn't know that was it's obvious. It's obvious, right?
We've been trying for about 4
and I get it.
He's
want,
got a crazy schedule,
right? And you want somebody to be there to be a part of it. That's the idea of the ceremony, and it's not that you want to keep them out. It's just that you want to be there to have them celebrate. And of course, because
you could have a year where you nominate 6 people and
then nobody of them show up, right?
You have 2 people show up,
right?
Or something.
Well, I mean, Muggsy Bogues is a slam dunk, obviously. Yeah. He's a slam dunk, absolute, no question about it.
I could have been in the Maryland State if I'd show up.
If you would just show up?
If I'd just show up.
Just get there. Because they know about your prowess at fantasy camp, obviously. They understand.
That would be my one shot.
They understand your greatness. They understand that.
Although there is a Stedman Award.
Yeah, that's
for
correct.
Somebody
right. I know Scott Garceau, obviously,
Tom
was.
Davis.
Yep. No doubt about it. Muggsy Bogues, the best, man. That's awesome. A couple real quick before we get to this week and the rest of baseball. There were 2 other interesting notes from the draft last night. Obviously, Bronny James selected by the Lakers. Who would have thought? What are the odds?
That was fixed.
God bless them. They want to let a 40-year-old basketball player run everything that they're doing.
Right.
God bless him. If you're a fan,
he's one of the greatest.
That's fine, but
the league is the way the league is.
It's one thing for the Capitals to be like, "Hey, look, we know we're not going to be good, but we're going to let Alex Ovechkin chase his goals record because our entire history is this guy. We've done nothing largely. I mean, more or less. I get it. They made a run to the finals once, and they had a couple other good players. But more or less, the entire history of the Washington Capitals is one player. So for them to say, we're going to suck it up, it's going to be a difficult few years, but we will let this guy pursue the goals record here in Washington for as long as he can play and as long as he wants to, that makes sense because he's kind of earned that from – and the fan base would say, yeah, we agree. Like, we are with you. We'll watch Alex Ovechkin past his prime chase this goals record because all of the joy that we have ever experienced as Washington Capitals fans is because of this one guy. That makes sense. For the Los Angeles Lakers to let LeBron James do that is badass. It's insanity. At some point, an adult needs to step up and say, dude, you're like the 90th best player in the history of this franchise. Like, with all due respect, he's a footnote in Lakers history. And that's not to say that LeBron James wasn't still a good player when he arrived. And technically he did win a championship, but ask the Lakers fans how they feel about that championship. I mean, it's about as valuable as the in-season tournament.
It's interesting to see how J.J. Redick will handle this, you know.
Well, I mean, J.J. Redick is only there because of LeBron James. Yeah. Like, they are capitulating to the whims of one person. And, again, in certain circumstances, if this was the Cleveland Cavaliers that were doing it, I could make that make some more – still not as much sense as the Ovechkin thing does, but it would make more sense. Because, again, the only thing that's ever happened in Cleveland Cavaliers history that has ever mattered is LeBron James. So if they wanted to do this, I could understand them saying, look, man, you know, maybe it's not the best thing for basketball reasons, but look, it's LeBron James. The Lakers being the team to capitulate to the dude's whims at 40 years old.
Maybe he'll be a great player.
Who, Bronny?
Yeah.
Maybe.
His last name's James. I don't know if...
There is that. I don't think we've seen anything that would suggest that he'll be a great player. There were a lot of teams that don't think he's going to be a great player. That's a great point. The pedigree is there. And then the story, did you guys pay at all attention to the Kyle Filipowski story?
Oh, my God.
The which story?
Kyle Filipowski?
No.
You're a Duke guy. You don't know this story. So Kyle Filipowski, everybody thought was a first-round pick, and everybody was very confused.
So he went
like
32nd
to Utah, right?
Utah.
And everybody was trying to figure out why, because this being the first year that they didn't do the second round of the draft on the same night, so you get a day of media coverage.
Right.
And all of a sudden, people uncover these stories on
this. You think this is why he fell? Or
that's it's Jonathan Givney from ESPN suggested that teams were looking into this.
That he
apparently, he's in a bit of a strange relationship. His, I think, mother and brother or sister both went on social media in the last 48 hours.
His mom and brother, I know.
Mom and brother, right?
Yeah.
Went on to say he has been groomed, quote, Mormon groomed. This woman that he's in a relationship with who is significantly older than him. Now, not like in her 40s, but like in her 30s.
They went to prom. She was 24.
Yeah. He was a high school student.
He was 18.
She went to his prom.
They were dating.
Okay.
And she's Mormon, and apparently there's this story about, like, this happens a lot in the Mormon community where somewhat older women date younger men to try to groom them to become Mormons and join the Mormon faith.
And play for the Utah Jazz.
Ironically, yes, on top of everything else, he ends up going to the Utah Jazz.
It's a perfect fit.
It is bizarre, man. Like, it is a bizarre story of, look, obviously they're both adults now, so, like, whatever. I kind of don't.
She was his babysitter at one
something
point?
Like that.
I saw that story. I wasn't sure if that
dude,
was
it
true.
is
But
weird.
Like, yeah.
It is
It was not.
weird.
Oh,
and no one involved knew how to talk about it because, like, what are we talking? Are we talking about a crime? Are we talking about just a weird relationship?
Yeah. Are we attacking the religion? Like, is that
right?
Like how when they went was he legal age when he went to the
I think
prom
at
with
prom
Yes,
he
he was
was, but
18.
nobody really knows exactly when the relationship started and whether or not he.
The day before the prom.
Yeah, what are the odds, right? Like, it was such a weird thing to watch unfold, and I didn't
So
watch.
Are you saying you think the Lakers should trade Bronny James
for
him?
Kyle Filipowski? I didn't watch any of the draft coverage. That was not on my agenda for this week. I said before, it's a terrible TV show on top of the fact that I don't have a team. I do have a team, but it's not local. We don't cover them. It's just bizarre. And I'm like, people are sharing clips of like Jonathan Givney from ESPN trying to talk about it, but not knowing how to talk about it. So he's like bringing it up, but then saying, yeah, but I think it's nonsense. Like, nobody knows how to handle this story of Kyle Filipowski and his, I think they're still, I don't know if they're engaged. I think fiance now is, I don't think they're married yet. It is weird. And like tying it into, well, teams have done their work on this, but like, you would think that like,
Seems
even
like
if it's.
there's one team in basketball that would say, Utah.
Yeah, Mormon, really?
Yeah,
right.
Next pick is.
How about how that worked out? How about how that worked out for the Utah Jazz? Real weird. All right, time to go over the rest of the week in baseball.
This week
In the rest of
baseball.
This week in the rest of baseball is brought to you by the print issue of PressBox, which is available for free at your neighborhood Royal Farms, any of the hundreds of locations around town where you find PressBox. You can read it all at PressBoxOnline.com, and it's a thick issue with 2 C's because it is our annual travel issue with sports tourism opportunities for you and your family throughout the state of Maryland this summer. You can find out more about that. Of course, on the cover, Maryland Governor Wes Moore. Stan and I sat down with him a couple weeks back down in Annapolis and discussed sports topics that are relevant to his administration and his leadership. The leases, the horse racing, all of that stuff. Find it all inside this print issue.
If only we had known about Filipowski.
We could have gotten, right?
Grooming, we could have asked him what he thinks of grooming.
What do you make of that? What do you make of that? All right.
Last Friday, we had our first walk-off pitch violation in Denver when the Rockies and the Nats
I was
were
watching
playing.
it.
You were watching?
I was watching.
You were watching. It was pretty spectacular. I don't know. Do we want to listen in, or I guess I'll just play it? But
Well, the funny part, it was Finnegan, right?
Yes, it was.
And he wasn't even angry. Like,
Well, it was his 10th pitch violation of the season.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
I would think that even if they called it correctly as a competitor, you'd still be like pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You'd
Well,
still.
I mean, I'm sure he doesn't look happy.
I don't know. It didn't seem like he was angry about the call. It didn't seem like he was arguing about the call that much.
I love that. So I don't know who was carrying around the Gatorade, but they're like, who am I?
Right? Who
He's
do
like,
we
he
celebrate
was just running around
with?
the field. He was like, where do I
Who
do
do we celebrate with?
But yeah, so that was awesome. And then the Phillies, I'm trying to, because I have videos of everything, but it's just too much to show it all.
Well, is it, or are you not? It sounds like a defeatist attitude. You could also move the microphone with you.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Yeah, so you could still talk into the microphone while you were doing.
Okay.
this.
Give me a second.
Well.
Let me learn how to work.
Look.
Now I'm not on camera.
You can. So what do we need to do better, Griffin?
I want a headset.
What do we need to do better in order to make this segment better next time?
I don't know. All right, so the Phillies turned to triple play. I'll try to show you. It was so it came from Sarah Lang's. It was also the first 1-3-5 triple play in almost 100 years.
3-5.
Yeah, July of 1929 was the last time that we had a 1-3-5
I was at that
triple play.
game.
You were at that one?
I was at that game.
But yeah, so that was just a very, very interesting. We had a triple play turned on Saturday, and it was a very unconventional triple play as well. On Sunday, the Giants they did their celebration of Willie Mays.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone wore 24, and Willie Mays, who holds the Giants record for not surprisingly the most career walk-off RBIs in Giants history, as well as walk-off plate appearances. So naturally, the Giants walked off on Sunday night as they got a win on Sunday. Did you see
the Mets
Hunter?
also did a night for Willie Mays this week, but unfortunately, right now, when you talk about the Mets, all anybody will talk about is Grimace.
That is
so
true.
there's just nothing that we
Grimace
can
Mets
do
are
about
still,
that Grimace.
pretty
Or Jose Iglesias. So I don't know if did you guys know that Jose Iglesias was like a Latin pop star on the side?
I did not know that.
Did not know that.
He has a side career. Well, you can't find the song. It's not available yet. I was
Twitter?
looking for it the other. No, it's not like.
Oh. People just know it exists.
He has a new song called OMG. By the way, his Latin pop persona also has another name. It's not. He doesn't go as.
He's not Jose Iglesias.
Well, because then people will be confused. Are you related
Iglesias.
to
Okay,
right? So he goes by something else. And he has this song.
Goes Ed Kranepool. Was that his name?
No. Hang on a second. I will tell you. It's
Mr. Met.
Hang on. Oh no! Apparently, they released it yesterday, so you might be able to find it.
And the song is
Candelita. Apparently, is what he goes as.
Candelita.
Candelita is Jose Iglesias's Latin music side project, and he just released a song. I'm not seeing it. Oh, there it is. It's called OMG. It's on Spotify. Hang on a second. Get rid of the music. I can play it. I got to turn the. Wait a second, because I got to turn the volume of this down. It's a whole thing. This is the song.
I'm looking forward to it.
You know what?
Not bad. 7th inning stretch at Oriole Park at Camden Yards.
This decidedly does not suck.
This is the new Edwin Diaz comes out to this.
So apparently, when somebody does something, gets a big hit or something like that,
they play that.
They in the dugout.
I have the music video.
Have been and then they'll look at each other and be like, "Oh my God!" Like that's apparently been a thing for the Mets during this not win streak because they've lost, but this hot stretch that they've had, and they would say they've internally been telling people far more significant than Grimace. They are actually crediting this Jose Iglesias song.
Is he going to use this as his walk-up song?
It's a fair.
Far.
It just hit. It just released on Spotify yesterday.
This will definitely be in the summer rotation for sure.
It's a banger, man.
I mean,
this is a winner.
It could be the new theme of.
If he was still playing for the Orioles, it 100% would be. I don't care about the Mets. But who knew that? And he's got lots of music on Spotify. This is not his first song. It's
not his first rodeo.
Yeah, apparently he has been releasing music for some time. It's wild, man. Wild.
So we were talking about the weather, how it's cooling off today.
God, I can't help it. It's a bop.
It's been infectious.
It's been a very hot week. Been a very hot week across the entire country, including in Cleveland or not Cleveland. Sorry, Cincinnati.
Yes.
Where I don't know if you saw Hunter Green got sick on the mound.
Oh.
Literally the 5th pitch of the game.
Ooh.
And the Pirates broadcast was pretty funny. I wanted to play the Pirates broadcast here.
Lots of extra base hits with that, almost half of the hits.
Whoa. Hunter Green just got sick after that pitch.
Lots of extra base hits with that, almost half of the hits.
Whoa. Hunter Green just got sick.
Got 5-second pause trying to figure out how to describe what it is that
after that.
You heard, you heard that he found off a pitch.
Is that one awful announcing?
I think it was.
He yacked, he puked, he reversed. You know what he did? He got sick.
He tossed his lunch.
He ended up throwing 4 innings in the game. This was the first inning.
I don't know how I feel about that either.
I mean, he threw up right on the not on the rubber, but about 3
Please
feet
tell me
in front
that
of
they did the thing that they did in elementary school where they brought out the sawdust.
I forget. I didn't see how they cleaned it up, but yeah, everyone came to the mound and they were like,
one of my.
They were like, what? I don't think everyone saw it at first, and they were like, what happened?
When I was a young man, I worked a weekend job at Best Buy. Right, when I was in college, I was working. I would go in, and the problem was they would have me work at 6 a.m. on a Sunday morning. Well, as anyone knows who was ever 20 years old, that's a really terrible time for you to be scheduled to work. So we would, be drunk until 3 a.m, take a 2-hour nap, and then we would just go to work. And one day, my buddy Matt and I are in the back, and we're putting away some CDs or something, and I just look at him, I'm like, hey, man, all's good. I just got to go puke real quick. And he was like, all right. Then I start walking to the bathroom, and I realize I ain't going to make it. And so now the goal is just to at least get the bathroom door open. Like, I'm running to just get the bathroom door open so it happens in the bathroom and not. We had a janitor or whatever you want to, who's maybe the nicest human being alive. His name was Clayton, older black gentleman, just the best. Like, we love this dude. What are the odds that the very moment that he has been mopping the floor of the bathroom and is standing right there? I open the door, puke all over the floor of the bathroom, and I look up, and there's Clay, the nicest guy I've ever met. And he's just holding his mop, and I say, Clay, give it to me. I'll clean it up. I'm sorry. And he said, no.
It's my job.
It's my job. I got you.
Clayton is too nice.
Like, oh, man, I felt so terrible. I couldn't look at him for like a month. For like a month, I just had like the horror of looking up, puked everywhere in the bathroom. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, yeah. So Hunter Green, he threw up on the mound. It was
it's
kind of
funny.
He seems okay.
I mean, as long as he's okay, right?
Yeah, he's gonna live. Also had we saw Spencer Turnbull kind of manipulating the pitch timer earlier this week. He with 2 strikes, he like got on the mound and just kind of turned around and faced second base. So the hitter is supposed to look up at the pitcher, and so I think like he glanced up. Sorry, I'll play the video here. But the hitter like glances up, he sees Turnbull's like not even close to like being ready, so he just looks back down, and as the clock hits 8, you're supposed to be ready at 8. You're supposed to be engaged at 8 seconds.
And so they gave him a pitch clock violation.
It was strike 3, and that struck him out. So it was it was a little bush league. Like I think we're gonna have to
You mean the hitter got called out on
the hitter got called out
because he wasn't looking up and ready because he saw Spencer Turnbull.
Yeah. Like Turnbull was looking and like saying
so he did almost like an Al Roboski.
Ooh,
turned around.
Good call.
Yeah. Yes. So and then also Tristan Casas has been injured. We know he's an interesting guy.
The mad. What do they call Al Roboski? The Mad Hungarian.
Yeah,
was that what
Mad Hungarian.
So Tristan Casas has been hurt. We saw him on Sunday Night Baseball. He's an interesting guy.
Well, his dad.
Yeah.
His dad got arrested. If you missed the story, Tristan Casas told a loving Father's Day tale of the time his father was arrested during his youth baseball game. An adorable Father's Day tale.
So Boston media were talking to him because he got an MRI. He had an MRI and it was clean. I forget what his injury was, but he's slowly working his way back. And they were like, "So like, have you begun swinging yet?" And he was like, "Yes." I might just read the entire like transcription here because it's really. They're like, "So have you been taking dry swings?" He was like, "Yeah, with no bat." And they were like, "With no bat?" And he's like, "I've been taking swings for 10 weeks." And they were like, What does that entail? Swinging with just your hands? He was like, no, just in my mind. Without a bat, just in my head. I've taken thousands of at-bats this season, so I feel great. I feel ready. So you're just like kind of standing? He's like, or sitting or laying.
What?
Does the process involve twisting at all, or are you kind of just stationary? No twisting. I wasn't able to do that, but I was swinging.
It's a weird dude, man.
All right.
It's a weird dude.
Sounds like he'd be great for the Utah Jazz.
Yeah, right. Do we know anything about his girlfriend, his fiance?
Mental AVs. John Kenzie Noel, obviously we did.
Is there a chance that he's being honest, too? Like, this is really something?
I mean, this is a thing. Like, mental ABs are a thing.
Yeah.
Like guys taking, like, shadow at-bats, essentially. Like, but holding an at-bat and stepping as, like, the pitch comes.
It's kind of like how Trump declassified all that stuff in his mind.
He's just really mentally strong, I guess.
I guess. I don't know.
John Kenzie, it was really cool. The Guardians, or the Columbus Clippers, I guess, because that's their AAA team, were posting. They were in a rain delay when John Kenzie Noel was taking his first career at bat. Obviously, hit a home run at the Orioles' expense, but they had video in like the clubhouse, and just all the guys were going nuts, and it was really cool to see just how excited they were. I have the video, which would I guess do a better
I wonder if
job.
some idiot would pick up Jackenzie Noel thinking he was a first baseman after his first game.
Well, I don't think that I would know an idiot that would do that.
Yeah, I don't know any idiot.
No, what idiot would do that?
Yeah.
What idiot?
An idiot.
I'm okay. Are we gonna wait all day for this, or?
No, again.
I'm not really sure how much I even want to celebrate this, considering that I feel like. Okay, well.
I know the moment's passed.
Yeah,
the thing is, I need 4 hands when I do this.
Okay, well let's look into that. Let's look into a specific. Maybe you need a specific Friday summer intern.
Yeah, maybe.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Here's the Columbus Clippers locker room.
Hey, Black! Somebody got to see my boy.
Okay.
Sounds like a foreign soccer.
I just thought it was cool that how excited they were.
Well, I would assume that's probably what most.
Did you see? I pretty much have everything. But did you see John Gray post game yesterday?
Yeah. Do you have the video?
I do. Yeah.
Okay, so I don't. A couple of Orioles fans seem to be offended by this.
I'm offended.
All right, listen to how he said it. So John Gray obviously gets rocked by the Orioles last night, and somebody I don't even know who it was. It was somebody writing an Orioles story, but asked about what he thought of the Orioles lineup, and John Gray just wanted. Let's maybe not give them too much credit. I'll let him explain.
We'll get to the bottom of it.
Across the board, though, this team is really good. The slugging, 4 home runs. What is it about their ball club that has the ability to do that against all you guys?
I don't know. Yeah, they put the bat on the ball, but I thought that some of the ones I threw I would have hit out myself. So, don't give him too much credit.
Hard to battle back.
I didn't think he was trying to take a shot at the Orioles as much as he was just trying to be self-deprecating. That was.
He's basically saying he made bad pitches.
Right, but I didn't see it at all as being I don't think they're very good. I think he was just trying to be self-deprecating in that.
Could have been the star of the
He could have been the man of the match. It's man of the match, Stan. Let's make sure we say it correctly. He could have been man of the match, no doubt about it.
And then the final one, just another Orioles one, but Melanie Newman pointed out yesterday, she tweeted that Ryan O'Hearn played with Heston's older brother Dex in the minors in Kansas City, and Dex always told him that, wait till you see my brother. And now, of course, their lockers happen to be next to each other. And then Keston in his home run yesterday scored O'Hearn. So
there's that. Very good. That's this week in the rest of baseball.
Oh, there was one more thing. Ohtani's on a 10-game RBI streak, which is pretty impressive. He's had 10 straight games with an RBI.
Did you see the video clip of him being saved by the bat boy?
Oh yes. that is crazy. Crazy.
You want to pull that up or
line drive hit into the Dodger dugout,
and he just scored not paying attention.
He looked like about a 28-year-old bat boy, though.
And then Miguel Rojas, I don't know if you've seen this from Sarah Langs. He has hit safely in 24 games for the Dodgers this season. The Dodgers are 24-0 every single game.
How about that?
That Miguel Rojas.
The Orioles ought to try and
forget
getting a starting pitcher.
Miguel Rojas.
Have you ever thought...
real quick, do you know what the record is for the most consecutive games with an RBI?
I would have found it.
It's going to be very difficult because it happened in 1922. Of
course.
1922.
How many games?
I'm going to say 21.
17. 17 is the number for Ray Grimes. 17 consecutive games. You remember him well, obviously.
I had him on my fantasy team.
You went to high school together.
I had him on my fantasy team in 1920. What year did this? I had
1922.
him the year before.
You son of a bitch.
Look up his numbers that year.
1921. We'll see how he did. All right, that's this week in the rest of baseball. Very good. Let's get a tidbit.
Have you ever thought of taking a cruise to these wonderful destinations with sunny skies and beautiful beaches? Well, wait no longer. We're ready for you to cruise from the Cruise Maryland Terminal.
Have a little phrase that you can go from baggage to margarita in about 15 minutes.
Choose fun with an array of destinations, onboard activities, entertainment, and world-class cuisine.
Contact your travel agent and book your cruise today. Let your adventure begin.
Stan's going to be walking up to the young people this summer like, you listening to OMG?
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather.
Candelita.
It's like a candle.
Yeah,
right?
well,
Candle.
Candelita.
Candelita.
OMG. Sounds like, hello, fellow young people. You guys listening to that That OMG?
That OMG.
All right, what you got for tidbit?
You did mention it, Angel Reese. 9 straight games with a double-double. Youngest player in WNBA history with 9 consecutive double-doubles. Just very, she's been on an unbelievable tear. Yesterday, Christian Yelich, he joined some rarefied company among active players, at least. Not yesterday. On Wednesday, he stole his 200th base of his career. He became the 5th active player on the 200-200 club, 200 home runs.
Fifth active player.
200 active players with 200 home runs, 200 stolen bases.
Mookie Betts.
Not Mookie Betts.
Bryce Harper.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Bryce Harper.
No Bryce Harper.
No Bryce Harper.
Yeah, no Bryce Harper.
Ronald Acuna.
No Ronald Acuna. Is he? I'm trying to figure out which one he wouldn't be at.
200 steals.
Maybe he hasn't got the 200 home run. Boy.
Mookie's not at 200 steals yet.
What about Altuve?
Harper's not at 200 steals yet either. Altuve is on the list. Correct.
Okay. Very good.
21 home runs, 300-plus stolen bases.
I guess Tatis doesn't have 200 home runs.
Acuna, he is at 196 stolen bases.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm going to give that to Glenn.
I don't.
He's actually at 165 home runs. He'll be on the list in probably a year.
Jose Ramirez?
Yes, Jose Ramirez. He is on the list.
One. How about Trout? Mike Trout.
Mike Trout. But I thought he had to be an active player.
Well, he is active. He's just not very.
Yeah, he's just not there.
He's just not.
How about
particularly
Jose Iglesias?
No, not Jose. Not Jose Iglesias.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to think of somebody else that's really a terrific.
I mean, Stanton
player.
stole bases earlier in his career.
Not Giancarlo Stanton.
Okay.
Let me see how many Stanton knows. He has the home runs.
Right.
Justin Turner.
No Justin Turner.
That's a good. Just the longevity. Yeah. Oh, how about McCutchen?
Andrew McCutchen. Is correct. Yeah. Why I had Stanton's? Stanton only has 42 stolen bases.
Wow. All right. I thought. I guess not any.
A good guess.
Well, no. In fairness, it was a time where there weren't as many stolen bases. Like he was early in his career more of a complete player, but it was brief. Like it was, he settled into I'm just gonna hit home runs pretty quickly.
Yeah. 2014, he stole 13 bases with Miami.
Yeah, settled in pretty quickly to say,
Yeah.
One of these things is gonna get me paid a lot of money.
How many of the names do we have?
Oh, you got them all.
Altuve, Ramirez, Trout, McCutchen,
Yelich.
Right. Very good, very good. Now let's get it. Yeah, right. Look at us. Let's get tubular.
There is a place where tradition, family, and community gather, where the aspirations of talented young competitors takes root, and where the crossroads of history, culture, and renewal come together. This spring, experience America's newest and most innovative ballpark, Meritus Park in Hagerstown, Maryland, home of the Atlantic League Flying Boxcars. Plan your getaway today. You're welcome in Hagerstown, Maryland.
Just jamming out over here. Oh my God. Oh my God. You know what? It's going to be an earworm, man.
Let me play it like quietly.
It's going to be an earworm, dude. There's nothing I can do about it. By the way, sorry, I just saw the Proctor was trying to get a Trout guess in. My bad, my fault. All right, here's what's coming up totally tubular-wise this weekend. As we mentioned, Orioles-Rangers prime time all weekend. Tonight, 7 o'clock on MASN, or 7:05 on MASN. Max Scherzer and Albert Suarez. Tomorrow night, thank you, 7:15 on Fox, Michael Lorenzen and Cade Povich. And Sunday night, 7:10 on ESPN, Andrew Heaney and Cole Irvin. Some other highlights, Copa tonight, Colombia, Costa Rica at 6, Paraguay, Brazil at 9 on Fox Sports 1. Tomorrow, the knockout round gets underway in the Euro on Fox at 3 o'clock, Germany, Denmark on FS1 at noon, Switzerland, Italy. Also tomorrow at CFG Bank Arena, Big 3 basketball here in Baltimore. It's you can watch it at 1 o'clock on CBS, and then the games move over to Twitter after that. Copa tomorrow night, 8 o'clock on FS1, Argentina and Peru, 8 o'clock on FS2, Canada and Chile. Sunday, Euro knockout round, Fox Sports. No, just everything's on Fox. At noon, England, Slovakia. At 3, Spain and Georgia. And then the Copa on Sunday night on Fox, Mexico, Ecuador at 8, on FS1, Jamaica and Venezuela at 8. Anything else? The gymnastics trials continue. Not a great night for Daniel Wettenberg, but he still has a chance. And then there's a girl from McDonough in the track and field trials who advanced to the finals, and I got to remember what her name is, that has a chance of making the Olympics as the track and field and gymnastics trials continue this weekend on NBC, USA, and Peacock. What you got?
On Netflix, the movie of the week on Netflix is A Family Affair. This is Zac Efron.
Elise Cooper, by the way, is the young lady's name from McDonough, who is an Owings Mills native, who is on to the finals.
So Joey King plays like a movie star's like assistant, and the movie star is Zac Efron, and then Zac Efron starts dating her mom, Nicole Kidman. And it just looks like a Hallmark movie essentially, but with like big name actors.
Is that the Filipowski story?
Yeah, right. Anybody a Mormon?
They're both adults. But yeah, if that's if you're into that, if you're into Zac Efron or Joey King or Nicole Kidman, probably sure. Owning Manhattan.
By the way, I said it wrong. Elise Cooper is into the semifinals in the 200, not the finals. My apologies.
Owning Manhattan
Hopefully
looks like the East Coast version of Selling Sunset, pretty much on Netflix as well.
I said highlights.
Fancy Dance is a movie on Apple TV Plus. So Lily Gladstone is like they live on like a reservation in Oklahoma, and she takes care of her niece, and then but also her sister is missing, and but people are very excited about this movie because it's like it shines a light on just indigenous like, people that like indigenous women specifically that like go missing, and it's
my wife says that she's incredible in Under the Bridge, the Hulu
which is again not about the Red Hot Chili Peppers, just to be clear, not
but yeah,
she of course was in Reservation Dogs, which was a really good show on FX, and
she was in the
Flower Moon,
Flowers of the
Yes.
Yeah, Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yes. Killers of the Flower Moon.
BET Awards on Sunday night, hosted by Taraji P. Henson and House of Dragon.
All right, and obviously, if I get any time this weekend, I'll be watching The Bear, but I don't know that I'm gonna have any time. And what did we decide was in theaters this weekend? Oh, A Quiet Place.
Quiet Place
comes out in theaters this weekend.
There was something else too.
I don't know.
Horizon.
Oh, right, the Kevin Costner Western.
Yeah.
What are the reviews on that? Because I feel like.
I mean, they're pushing it hard because
Kevin Costner and doing a Western, right? Like I understand that, but what does it have like on Horizon? It has.
I guess I gotta see Horizon at some point. Maybe I'll see it next week.
I probably will not. It has. This is chapter 1 of Horizon. Sam Worthington.
Yeah.
Reviews the
Josh Brolin's in it?
The critics have it at 41%. The audience has it at 70%, so it's definitely better. It doesn't seem great.
Quiet Place looks better review-wise.
Yeah, everybody.
I still got to see Bike Riders, too.
All right, you're all in on
Bike Riders.
All right, very good. Stan, back in action on Monday.
Back in action.
Ross and Luke, and, of course, Power Rankings as well at PressBoxOnline.com, and, as always, at Stan the Fan on Twitter. Appreciate you. Everybody else, we'll see you back here on July 11th and 12th. It'll be the next time that you are in this studio.
Yes.
So appreciate that.
Yes. Okay.
Thanks today to Muggsy Bogues. Thanks to Buster Olney. Thanks to Mark McLemore. We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God, it's so good.
tab. Oh my God, it's so good tab. I'm going to need you to do that the rest of the summer.
Right.
I'm going to need for the summer.
Do it again.
We'll get it all up in the greatest hits section of the
Oh my God.
tab at Glenn Clark.
That song could be as big as, what was the walk-up music for the guy, the Orioles, Para?
Gerardo Parra, Baby Shark.
Right, yeah. He did use Baby Shark for when he was with the Nationals.
This could be bigger than that.
Apparently for the Mets, it's massive.
They just made everyone's walk-up
song. It is. I'm telling you, it's catchy as hell. It's catchy as hell. All right. Anyway, we'll get all that up. Monday, we're back in action. Did you say Rodney Rice is joining us on Monday?
He is scheduled to.
Okay, scheduled to join us. Incoming Maryland basketball transfer. I know. I'm not just trying to correct that. Stuff and Things is what we got on Monday.
Yeah.
Reed and I. Oh my God. Reed and I are with you on Sunday from 12 to 2. Doug Glanville is going to join us over on 105.7 The Fan as he'll be in town. I think he's doing radio for Sunday Night Baseball as well. Thanks to everybody at PressBox, all of our great sponsors and partners, including Live Casino and Hotel Maryland. Visit Hagerstown in Washington County, Cruise, Maryland, Guilford Hall Brewery, Royal Farms, Ed Block Courage Awards, HelpMyGamblingProblem.org, the Costas Inn, MSAA, the Baltimore Orioles, your local Toyota dealer, buyatoyota.com. Thanks to Griffin, at Griffin_Bass is how you follow him. Follow us, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, at Glenn Clark Radio. Have a great weekend. Go Birds. If you see me, I'll be at the Big 3, and I'll be at the Orioles game the next Saturday and Sunday night. So say hello. Duke sucks.